Chapter 29-20. The Nether Dragon's massive claw slammed into Sovereign Dong's body. Sovereign Dong cried out as he was sent flying thousands of kilometers away. He coughed up large mouthfuls of blood and half of his body had exploded. He looked as wretched as possible. Even Jizun Dong, who was beside Jizun Dong, was affected. The lower half of his body exploded. He floated in the air, terrified. When the other two godly kings of the Supreme Family saw this, their expressions changed drastically. Without thinking, they split into two different directions and flew away, leaving Jizun Dong behind. Lu Ming, leave those two traitors to us. At this moment, two elders flew past Lu Ming and chased after the two godly kings of the Supreme Family. These two elders of the Kongxian school were extremely powerful elders. They had both reached the second heavenly layer of the godly king realm. The two godly kings of the Supreme Family were only at the first heavenly layer of the godly king realm. They couldn't escape from the second heavenly layer of the godly king realm. The Nether Dragon stopped and looked at Jizun Dong and Jizun Kun coldly. Jizun Dong and Jizun Kun both looked desperate. Lu Ming, I beg you spare me. As long as you spare me, I'll be your slave in the future. I'll follow you wholeheartedly. Suddenly, Jizun Kun cried out, begging Lu Ming for mercy. Zun Kun, what are you doing? If you want to die, then die. Why are you begging him for mercy? Even if the men of the Supreme Family die, they have to die with dignity. Shouted Jizun Dong. Shut up. If you want to die, I don't want to accompany you. Shouted Jizun Kun. His face was incomparably sinister. He was a heavenly genius. He had a bright future ahead of him. With his talent, breaking through to the godly king realm was a cinch. Once he reached the godly king realm, his lifespan would increase explosively. He could live for 5 eternal star years. With such a long lifespan, how much happiness could he enjoy? Why should he die? In order to survive, he was willing to give up his backbone. Immediately, Paragon of Heaven and Earth turned to Lu Ming. There was a fawning expression on his face as he said, Lu Ming, no, Holy Son Lu Ming, as long as you let me off, I'll do anything for you. I'll be loyal to you in the future. How shameless! I really misjudged him before. How could such a person become the first saint of our Kongxian school? But many of the Kongxian school's disciples looked at the Supreme Saint with disdain. Oh, it's not impossible for me to let you go. How about this? You go and kill him, and I'll let you go. Lu Ming pointed at Jizun and said, Kill him? But he's a divine king realm powerhouse. I'm not his match at all. Autark Universe Sovereign said with an ugly expression. This is simple. Yulong. Lu Ming transmitted to Yulong, kill. Yulong roared and pounced at Jizun. At this moment, Jizun was already heavily injured and could not escape. He could only barely resist, but Yulong's dragon claw slammed down and sent Jizun flying. This time, Jizun's injuries were even more serious. His body was in tatters, and even his divine flame was almost extinguished. His strength was not even 1/10 of his original. Now, he doesn't have much strength left. Go and kill him. I promise you, as long as you kill him, I won't kill you. Lu Ming said. All right, I'll go and kill him. Autark Universe Sovereign clenched his teeth and charged at Jizun. Autark Universe Sovereign, you dare? Jizun roared, his eyes filled with disbelief. He never thought that Autark Universe Sovereign would really kill him. Jizun, didn't you say that I am the future hope of the Jizun family? That's why I can't die. Help me. As long as I'm alive, the Jizun family will rise again in the future. Do you understand? Autark Universe Sovereign secretly transmitted to Jizun. At the same time, his body lit up and he unleashed a sovereign divine fist at Jizun. You disobedient son! Jizun roared. He was extremely disappointed in Autark Universe Sovereign. Furthermore, he did not want to give up. He would rather die at the hands of Lu Ming than die at the hands of Autark Universe Sovereign. If he really died at the hands of Autark Universe Sovereign, the Jizun family would go down in history as a joke. So, Jizun resisted. He mustered his remaining strength and also punched. Boom. Jizun and Autark Universe Sovereign's attacks collided, releasing dazzling golden light. Then, the two of them rapidly retreated. You still want to resist? The Autark Universe Sovereign roared. In order to show his loyalty to Lu Ming, his eyes turned red and he madly attacked Jizun. However, Jizun was a cultivator of the second king god layer. Although he was severely injured, he was still very strong. He fought Autark Universe Sovereign and it was hard to tell who would win. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 100 moves. At this moment, the other two cultivators of the first king god layer of the Jizun family had been defeated by the two cultivators of the second king god layer of the Kongxian school. Their cultivations had been destroyed. A large number of Kongxian school's elders and disciples surrounded the area, watching the battle between Autark Universe Sovereign and Jizun from afar. On the other hand, the three overlords and some other top forces had already escaped. Lu Ming did not let Yu Long chase after them. With Yu Long's current state, he could suppress the Mystic Academy's dean and the others. However, it was impossible for him to kill them. Yu Long's current state was that with his strong physical body, his defense was shocking. He could protect himself, but his attack power was not enough. Therefore, he could only let them escape. Die, old man. Why are you still resisting? The Autark Universe Sovereign had gone crazy. He kept attacking Jizun. At this moment, the two of them were already injured. Lu Ming, kill me. Just kill me. Jizun roared. He wanted to die at Lu Ming's hands. I have a dog of the Jizun family following my orders. Why should I do it myself? Lu Ming sneered. When Autark Universe Sovereign heard this, he was furious. However, he did not dare to show it. He was afraid that Lu Ming would be dissatisfied. He had no choice but to vent all his anger on Jizun Dong. Sigh, forget it. Jizun sighed. He did not want to resist anymore. If he continued, he would only become a joke. Suddenly, Jizun retracted all his divine power and stopped resisting. Bang! Autark Universe Sovereign punched Jizun's head, causing it to explode. Jizun had died. A god king of a generation had died at the hands of the junior he had favored the most. It was truly a great tragedy. Ha, old man, you're finally dead. Ha! Autark Universe Sovereign laughed crazily. After a long while, he stopped and then looked at Lu Ming with a flattering smile. Holy son Lu Ming, look, I've already killed Jizun. Chapter 29-21. That's right. Lu Ming nodded, then said mockingly, Supreme Universe Supremacy, you're worse than a dog. You killed your own elder to save your own life. Supreme Universe Supremacy clenched his fists, feeling greatly humiliated. He lowered his head, his eyes full of murderous intent. Lu Ming, I'll compromise first. As long as I can save my own life, one day, I'll make you pay 10 times, no, 100 times, 1,000 times. I'll kill your family one by one in front of you. I'll cripple your cultivation and let you live like a dead dog in pain. Supreme Universe Supremacy roared in his heart, hating Lu Ming to the core. However, when he raised his head, the murderous intent and hatred in his eyes disappeared, leaving only a smile. Lu Ming the Bachelor Sage is right. However, Supreme Universe Supremacy is too stubborn. He even dared to offend a prodigy like the Bachelor Sage Lu Ming. He deserves to die. Supreme Universe Supremacy smiled apologetically. Shameless. Oh my god, he's really shameless. He's too shameless. Bachelor Sage Lu Ming said that Supreme Universe Supremacy is worse than a dog. I used to respect him so much. How disgusting. Many disciples of Kongxian school saw this scene and scolded and mocked. Now, they were not afraid of Supreme Universe Supremacy. Supreme Universe Supremacy was filled with murderous intent, but he still had a smile on his face. Bachelor Sage Lu Ming, can I follow you from now on? Follow me? I only promised not to kill you. I didn't say that I wanted you to follow me. Lu Ming said calmly. Yes. I don't deserve to follow Bachelor Sage Lu Ming. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Supreme Universe Supremacy nodded repeatedly. He was even happier that Lu Ming didn't want him to follow him. Traitor, you still want to leave? Lu Ming's voice turned cold. Supreme Universe's figure stiffened and his expression turned ugly. Saint Lu Ming, what do you mean by this? You said that as long as I kill Supreme Universe, you will not kill me and let me off. That's right. I did promise not to kill you, but that's only on behalf of myself. I can't represent all the elders and disciples of Kongxian School. You betrayed the Kongxian School, so naturally, you will be punished by the Kongxian School. Lu Ming said indifferently. You Lu Ming. You're despicable. You're shameless. You don't keep your word. Autark Universe Sovereign roared. He knew that he had been tricked by Lu Ming. When did I go back on my words? I said that I wouldn't kill you, so I won't kill you. However, I'm just the holy son of the Kongxian School. I don't have the authority to represent the founding members of the Kongxian School. Fellow founding members, what do you think should be the punishment for betraying the sect? Lu Ming looked at the founding members of the Kongxian School. Those who betray the sect should be executed. Wuxia said coldly. All right, then I'll leave Autark Universe Sovereign to you. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming. You're despicable. Autark Universe Sovereign roared hysterically. How could he not know that from the start, Lu Ming had no intention of letting him go? Even that powerful nether dragon listened to Lu Ming's orders. If Lu Ming said something, who in the Kongxian School would dare to go against him? However, Lu Ming said that he couldn't represent the founding members of the Kongxian School. Traitor, die! Wuxia stepped forward. With a wave of his hand, a ray of moonlight slashed at Autark Universe Sovereign. Although Wuxia had suffered some damage, it was still far from something that Autark Universe Sovereign could block. Lu Ming, I curse you! Autark Universe Sovereign roared. But before he could finish, he was struck by Wuxia. His body was torn apart, and his soul was extinguished. He died on the spot. Now, the Autark family was practically completely destroyed. After dealing with the Autark family, the people of the Kongxian School looked at Lu Ming. Especially when they looked at the nether dragon beneath his feet, they were filled with reverence. The founding members of the Kongxian School flew over to Lu Ming. Lu Ming, I wonder who this is? Wuxia looked at the nether dragon. He was naturally asking about the nether dragon. This is a friend of mine. Lu Ming smiled. A friend? Everyone's eyes narrowed. In their eyes, Lu Ming had become even more unfathomable. Such a powerful existence was actually Lu Ming's friend. Clang, clang. At this moment, the sound of a bell rang out from within the Kongxian School. That's a death knell. What's going on? Many people's expressions changed. The death knell wouldn't be rung under normal circumstances. It would only be rung when a major figure of the Kongxian School had fallen. This time, a major figure of the Kongxian School had indeed fallen. That was Autark Universe Sovereign, but Autark Universe Sovereign was a traitor. Naturally, the death knell wouldn't be rung because of him. The school master has fallen. The school master has fallen. At this moment, a white-haired old man flew out and cried out sorrowfully. What? The school master has fallen. Many people were shocked. Founding Elder Shang, what's going on? How did the school master suddenly fall? The founding members all flew over to the old man and asked. I don't know either. When I saw that the situation was settled, I returned to the Life Palace and saw that the school master's life tablet had shattered. Founding Elder Shang said. Many of the major figures of the Kongxian School had life tablets stored in their life palaces. Once the life tablet shattered, it meant that they had fallen. What? How could this be? What's going on? No wonder the school master didn't appear before. Immediately, everyone in the Kongxian School discussed and made all kinds of guesses. However, no one knew the result. Lu Ming naturally wouldn't tell them how Dragon Boat Mountain had fallen. The matter of the schoolmaster's death is to be kept a secret for now. No one is to leak it. In the end, the founding members gave the order. However, they also knew that such a big matter couldn't be kept a secret for long. It was only a matter of time before it was leaked. They secretly rejoiced that there was an expert like Yu Long in the Kongxian School. Otherwise, once the news of Dragon Boat Mountain's death was leaked, the Kongxian School would probably be in danger. Not to mention the three overlord forces, even some of the top forces wouldn't be afraid of them. Next, the founding members of the Kongxian school started to discuss what to do next. Lu Ming suggested that the founding members assist Ouyang Qingxiang to temporarily take charge of the Kongxian school. When Ouyang Qingxiang became the divine king, she would officially take over the Kongxian school. Ouyang Qingxiang was a Zongzi, and with Lu Ming's suggestion, the founding members naturally agreed. Lu Ming's words now carried a lot of weight. Once he spoke, the founding members of the Kongxian school had to think twice. Just like that, the founding members assisted Ouyang Qingxiang in managing the Kongxian school, and the Kongxian school was on the right track. The Nether Dragon's secret realm. Lu Ming, this Yulong is too heavily injured. I can still use this Yulong's body for now. I'll stay in the Yulong's body and heal in the Yulong's secret realm. You'll have to rely on yourself for everything else. The Bone Demon's voice sounded. Chapter 29-22. Alright, just focus on recuperating. Don't worry about me. Lu Ming nodded. He was still looking forward to it. This Nether Dragon was originally an existence that surpassed the godly king realm. Once it recovered, it would be extremely terrifying. Of course, the Nether Dragon's soul had already been destroyed. The Bone Demon was only temporarily borrowing its body. It was impossible for it to recover to its peak. But even if it couldn't recover to its peak, as long as it recovered to the peak of the godly king realm, Lu Ming could do whatever he wanted. Then I'll be leaving, the Bone Demon said as he controlled the Nether Dragon. With a twist of its body, it flew into the depths of the Nether Dragon's secret realm and disappeared. As for Lu Ming, he left the Nether Dragon's secret realm. Not long after, Lu Ming arrived at a mountain peak. This mountain peak was an independent peak of the Kongxian school. The divine aura was extremely dense and the cultivation environment was extremely good. Even in the entire Kongxian school, it could be ranked at the top. But now, it belonged to Lu Ming alone. After setting up a simple array around the mountain peak, Lu Ming came to a large hall at the center of the mountain peak and sat down cross-legged. Then, a storage ring appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Looking at the storage ring, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with intense anticipation. Because this storage ring belonged to the Dragon Mountain. What kind of treasure would the storage ring of a sect master contain? Lu Ming didn't know about other things, but Lu Ming knew that the stellar core was definitely in this storage ring. There really is a restriction. Lu Ming scanned the storage ring with his spiritual sense and found that there was indeed a restriction on it. However, this was the storage ring of the Dragon Mountain. He couldn't ask the Kongxian school's godly king for help. He could only break the restriction himself. With a thought, the 6 divine fires in his dantian burned fiercely. With the sovereign's god force as the lead, the 6 types of god force mixed together and surged towards the restriction on the storage ring. Lu Ming wanted to slowly erase the restriction on it. Even with the mysteries of the sovereign's god force, Lu Ming still took 3 months to erase the restrictions on the storage ring. As soon as the restriction was obliterated, Lu Ming's spiritual sense entered the ring and impatiently scanned it. The first thing he saw was a jade box in the spatial ring. Even though they were separated by the jade box, they could still feel the surging energy emanating from it. Star core. Lu Ming concluded that what was inside this jade box was definitely a star core. Lu Ming's palm glowed as the jade box appeared in his hand. So heavy! Lu Ming's expression changed. He almost couldn't hold the jade box. The weight of the jade box was shocking. Kid, with your current cultivation, you won't be able to absorb this stellar core. In the sea of consciousness, the voice of the quantifying character formula sounded. Then what cultivation level do I have to be able to absorb it? Lu Ming asked. This stellar core was refined by someone with a great ability. Its energy is strong and powerful. At the very least, you need to be in the Divine King realm to be able to absorb it. Otherwise, your soul and body will be burned to ashes. The quantifying character formula said. Only a Divine King realm can absorb it? God knows how long that will take. Lu Ming looked depressed. Originally, he thought that after obtaining the stellar core he could rely on it to advance by leaps and bounds. It seemed that he had thought too much. Kid, don't be depressed. Have you forgotten that there is still this old lady here? The quantifying character formula's proud voice sounded. You can absorb and refine this stellar core? Lu Ming's tone was full of doubt. Back then, the quantifying character formula needed a long time to refine a piece of nether dragon blood jade and the energy of the ancient god flower. The energy of the stellar core was many times stronger than the nether dragon blood jade and the ancient god flower. How could the quantifying character formula refine it? Lu Ming seriously doubted. Kid, what kind of tone is that? Are you doubting this old lady's ability? I'm so angry. The quantifying character formula roared. I'm not doubting your ability. It's just that you needed such a long time to refine the energy of the nether dragon blood jade and the ancient god flower. Then, wouldn't it take tens of thousands of years to refine this stellar core? Lu Ming muttered. Nonsense, kid, what do you know? This old lady is now residing in your body and is living with you. This old lady's ability is also determined by your cultivation. If your cultivation is weak, this old lady's ability will be weak. The higher your cultivation, this old lady's ability will be stronger. In the past, this old lady's refining ability was weak because you were a good-for-nothing. Do you understand now? The quantifying character formula screamed. Lu Ming's face was full of cold sweat. However, he finally understood that the quantifying character formula's energy was closely related to his strength. This made sense. Otherwise, the quantifying character formula was one of the origin ancient characters. Just its previous refining speed was too slow. Kid, now that your cultivation has reached the heavenly god realm, this old lady's refining ability has also been greatly improved. I can barely refine this stellar core. However, I can only refine it slowly. It will take a long time to completely refine it. However, even if I can only refine it bit by bit, when I transfer the refined energy to you, it will greatly increase your cultivation speed. Kid, your cultivation method is special. You need to cultivate many different kinds of divine power and divine fire. Especially when you reach the divine king realm, you will condense more stellar cores than others. At that time, every time you break through, the energy you need will be many times more than others. Your cultivation speed will also be many times slower. However, with this stellar core, your cultivation speed will not be slow. The quantifying character formula went on for a long time. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Indeed, he cultivated the universe myriad Dao technique and cultivated many different kinds of divine power. The energy he needed to break through was much more than others. In this way, his cultivation speed was bound to be very slow. Therefore, during this period, he did not dare to cultivate other divine techniques. He was afraid that it would affect his cultivation speed. However, with this stellar core, no matter how many divine techniques he cultivated, no matter how much divine power he cultivated, he was not afraid. Old Liang, can you swallow this stellar core directly? Lu Ming asked. Of course. The quantifying character formula said. Then, Lu Ming's glabella glowed and a quantifying character flew out from his glabella. Lu Ming, open the jade box. The quantifying character formula said. Lu Ming immediately circulated his divine power and condensed 2 large hands. He grabbed the jade box and opened the lid of the jade box. As soon as the lid of the jade box was opened, Lu Ming saw a crystal the size of a human head in the jade box. It was dazzling like a small sun and emitted a terrifying energy fluctuation. In an instant, there was a terrifying energy that was about to soar into the sky. Fortunately, the quantifying character formula rapidly expanded and enveloped the stellar core. The next moment, the energy fluctuation disappeared along with the stellar core to avoid alerting others. After the quantifying character formula swallowed the stellar core, it flew into Lu Ming's glabella and settled down in his sea of consciousness. Lu Ming knew that it would take time for the quantifying character formula to refine the stellar core. He just needed to wait patiently for the harvest. Chapter 29-23. After dealing with the stellar core, Lu Ming began to organize the other items in the Dragon Mountain's interspatial ring. Even though he was mentally prepared, Lu Ming was still shocked. There were too many treasures in the interspatial ring. Low-grade divine crystals and mid-grade divine crystals were piled up like a mountain. It was hard to tell how many pieces there were, but it was enough for Lu Ming to use for a long time. There were also divine pellets with different functions, but all of them were of excellent quality. In addition, all kinds of crafting materials and metallic materials were also piled up like mountains. Lu Ming's face was full of smiles. When Qiuqiu woke up, he wouldn't have to worry about food for a long time. In addition, there were all sorts of divine artifacts of various grades. Lu Ming's thoughts flickered and a scarlet spear appeared in his hand. Buzz! Lu Ming circulated his god force and brandished the spear. A terrifying rumble resounded in the air. Good spear! Lu Ming smiled. This was a high-grade 9th-grade divine artifact, most suitable for Lu Ming's current use. Lu Ming immediately refined this divine artifact. After refining it, the spear flew into Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. It would be very convenient for him to use it in the future. Other than that, the Dragon Mountain had also collected a lot of secret manuals of divine skills, cultivation methods, and secret techniques. Lu Ming went through the interspatial ring. What made Lu Ming the happiest was that there were 2 sets of Saint-grade divine arts. These 2 divine arts were not the ones collected by the Kongxian school. Lu Ming had never seen them before. Clearly, they were the Dragon Mountain's private collection. Haha. Lu Ming laughed heartily. Now that he had the stellar core, he wanted to cultivate a few more types of god force. Now, there were divine arts delivered to his doorstep. As long as he could cultivate these 2 divine arts, his divine power would become even more vigorous. After putting away the 2 Saint-grade divine arts, Lu Ming took out some interspatial rings. These interspatial rings were obtained by Lu Ming after killing the Mystic Academies and Invincible Kenzo S prodigies. Lu Ming organized these interspatial rings. What made Lu Ming ecstatic was that he had obtained another 2 sets of divine techniques. One of them was from the Mystic Academy's 4-eyed hollow court, called the multi-eyed divine art. When cultivated to the peak, one could cultivate the multi-eyed divine art. The 4-eyed hollow quartz divine art was this kind of divine art. Lu Ming was most excited about the other one. It was from the Invincible Kenzo S prodigy, Zhuo Budong. It was called the Invincible Sword Art. This divine art was the Invincible Kenzo S signature art. However, there were very few who could cultivate it to the peak because once cultivated to the peak, one would be able to cultivate the Invincible Sword Art, a divine-grade divine art. For example, the Invincible Kenzo S prodigy, Sword Dao Wuji, had cultivated this divine art to the peak and cultivated the Invincible Sword Art to the peak. He had cultivated the Invincible Kenzo S divine art to the peak and cultivated the Invincible Sword Art to the peak. As for Zhuo Budong, he had only cultivated the Saint-grade divine art. He was far from cultivating the divine-grade divine art. Lu Ming's heart thumped wildly. He had the Universe Myriad Dao technique, so he did not need to cultivate it to the peak. He only needed to cultivate a strand of divine art. Immediately, Lu Ming decided that he would spend the rest of his time practicing these 4 divine skills. As for those king-grade divine skills, Lu Ming was not interested in them at all. This was because it was very difficult for a king-grade divine art to condense a star nucleus. When Lu Ming stepped into the divine king realm, the king-grade divine art would not be of much use. Lu Ming planned to find an opportunity in the future to integrate the 3 types of king-grade divine power in his body into the sacred-grade divine power or divine-grade divine power that had similar attributes. Let's start with the divine-grade martial art, indestructible sword art. Lu Ming thought, then took out the invincible sword art and studied it carefully. The difficulty of cultivating a divine-grade divine technique was naturally incomparable to that of a sacred-grade divine technique. Lu Ming spent a full year before he succeeded in cultivating the first level. After cultivating the first level, Lu Ming condensed a strand of invincible sword force. For Lu Ming, this was enough. After cultivating the first level, Lu Ming put down the invincible sword art and began to comprehend the other saint-grade divine art, the many-eyed divine art. In this way, Lu Ming spent a few years to cultivate all 4 divine arts to the first level and cultivate a strand of divine art. Cultivating to this point was just the beginning. Then, Lu Ming wholeheartedly operated the Universe Myriad Dao technique to strengthen these 4 types of divine arts. It would take a long time to cultivate these 4 types of divine arts to the same level as the other divine arts. Then, Lu Ming fell into a deep level of seclusion. After the previous turmoil in the Qin Tian star field, it also fell into peace. Time passed quickly. 200 years had passed. 200 years was just a blink of an eye for the Qin Tian star field. But for Lu Ming, it was a great harvest. After 200 years, Lu Ming finally cultivated 3 of the saint-grade divine arts to the same level as the other divine arts. Only the invincible sword force was harder to cultivate because it was a divine-grade divine art. It had not reached the same level as the other divine arts, but the difference was not too big. In a few more decades, he should be able to catch up. As such, Lu Ming had a total of 10 divine arts in his dantian. They were extremely bright like 10 stars in the sky. Among them, there were 2 divine-grade divine arts, 5 saint-grade divine arts, and 3 king-grade divine arts. Now, although Lu Ming's cultivation was still in the first level of the heavenly god realm, compared to 200 years ago, Lu Ming's divine arts were much stronger. His battle prowess had also increased by a notch. Moreover, in these 200 years, he did not just cultivate the universe myriad Dao technique. He took time to comprehend the mystical dragon aspect technique, various divine skills, and the battle character technique. He had made significant improvements in all aspects. In terms of divine skills, Lu Ming had successfully cultivated the 3rd move of the apocalyptic 3 strikes, Star Explosion. This move was called Star Explosion. It was easy to imagine how powerful it was. In addition, the 9 heavens Kuan Peng art and 9 layers of crimson gold armor had both reached the 7th layer. The 9 heavens Kuan Peng art had reached the 7th layer, which was the peak. However, the 9 heavens Kuan Peng art was an incomplete speed-type divine skill. There must be other higher layers. Lu Ming planned to spend some time looking for them. As for the battle character technique, Lu Ming had finally reached the peak of multiplying his battle prowess by 4 times, achieving a success rate of 100%. Lu Ming had already started to comprehend the 5 times battle prowess. However, it was too difficult. After many years of cultivation, Lu Ming was still clueless. In short, after 200 years, although Lu Ming's cultivation had not improved, his battle prowess had improved significantly. If Lu Ming were to face the god's son of the Mystic Academy, Lu Ming was confident that he could defeat his opponent. Meanwhile, outside the mountain, a slender figure arrived. Autumn Moon. Lu Ming rose with a smile and went up to her. He held Autumn Moon's hand and observed Autumn Moon carefully. His eyes flickered as he exclaimed in surprise, "Autumn Moon, you've broken through to the heaven god realm." Chapter 29-24. Yes, I just made a breakthrough a while ago. Autumn Moon nodded with joy on her face. She had finally caught up with Lu Ming. Lu Ming was amazed. Ever since Autumn Moon had awakened her 9 apertures sacred heart, her cultivation speed was amazing. Even without any fortuitous encounters, her cultivation speed was still very fast. 200 years ago, Lu Ming's words carried more weight in the Kongxian school. Almost no one would go against his words. Therefore, Autumn Moon could enter and leave the Kongxian school as she pleased. In addition, Lu Ming had given her a large number of resources to help her. Thus, Autumn Moon's cultivation was improving at an amazing speed. Now, Autumn Moon had broken through the heavenly god realm and reached level 1 heavenly god realm. She was on par with Lu Ming. Moreover, Autumn Moon had also cultivated the universe myriad Dao technique to the highest level. She had successfully cultivated the sovereign divine power. Her combat strength was also very strong. If she were in the major sects, she would be a divine son. Of course, no one knew about this. Qiu, take these divine arts and profound techniques and cultivate them. Lu Ming gave Qiu the indestructible sword technique, multi-eyed divine technique, ultimate cold divine technique, and other divine techniques. With Autumn Moon's talent, it was only a matter of time before she could cultivate many divine powers. Moreover, with Autumn Moon's 9 apertures sacred heart, her cultivation speed would not be slow even if she could control many divine powers. If it were others, even if they had the universe myriad Dao technique and cultivated many divine powers, their cultivation speed would be as slow as a snail. However, Lu Ming had the quantifying character formula and Autumn Moon had the 9 apertures sacred heart. They did not have to worry about this. So many! Autumn Moon was shocked when she saw so many divine skills and divine skills. Of course, don't you know who your young master is? These divine skills and divine skills are nothing. I will give you more in the future. Lu Ming began to boast. I knew it from Autumn Moon that young master is the best. Autumn Moon blinked her big eyes and kissed Lu Ming on the lips. Then she immediately retracted her hand. However, Lu Ming reached out and held Autumn Moon's slender waist, pulling Autumn Moon into his arms. Now that you know how powerful the young master is, I'll make it up to him today. Lu Ming smirked. Young master is up to no good again. Autumn Moon giggled. Then I'll show you how bad I am. Lu Ming laughed and carried Autumn Moon into a room. Soon, a seductive voice came from the room. In the days that followed, under Lu Ming's guidance, Autumn Moon practiced all kinds of divine arts and techniques. Her progress was astonishing, and even Lu Ming felt inferior. In the blink of an eye, another 3 years had passed. On this day, the Senate of Kongxian School suddenly sent a message to Lu Ming, saying that there was an important matter. Lu Ming rushed to the meeting hall and found Ouyang Qingxiang and the other saints there. When Fuko and the others saw Lu Ming, their faces turned pale, and their faces were full of respect. Greetings, Saint Lu Ming. Fuko and the others greeted Lu Ming politely. Now, if Lu Ming said one, they would definitely not dare to say two. Lu Ming nodded casually and swept his gaze across the hall. In addition to the saints and saintesses, the Senate of Kongxian School and many inner sect elders were almost all present. Lu Ming. Saint Lu Ming. These Senate and inner sect elders also greeted Lu Ming. Everyone, why are you all gathered here today? Lu Ming asked. Lu Ming, we received news not long ago that the emissary of the Taishu dynasty is coming to Kongxian School. Ouyang Qingxiang said. The Taishu dynasty. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly shone brightly. Lu Ming had known for a long time that the Taishu Sacred Court was a universe-level force. It ruled over a vast territory and countless star zones. Qintian Starfield was a remote starfield under the rule of the Taishu dynasty. Because of Jianghu's matter, Lu Ming would sooner or later visit the Taishu dynasty. He did not expect that the Taishu dynasty would suddenly send an emissary to Kongxian School. Why did the emissary of the Taishu dynasty suddenly come to Kongxian School? Lu Ming asked. His mind was racing. Could it be that the emissary of the Taishu dynasty knew about his relationship with Jianghu and came because of him? That was impossible. He did not reveal anything about Jianghu. The emissary of the Taishu dynasty should not know about it. Then what was the reason? We don't know. In the vast Taishu dynasty, Qintian Starfield is a remote place. The Taishu dynasty has always been indifferent and rarely sent an emissary. This time, they suddenly sent an emissary. I don't know why. Ouyang Qingxiang also frowned. The others also looked dignified. They did not know whether the arrival of the emissary of the Taishu dynasty was a blessing or a curse. Although Kongxian School dominated Qintian Starfield, compared to the Taishu dynasty, they were like ants. The difference between an ant and a divine dragon was like the difference between an ant and a divine dragon. Any cultivator from the Taishu sacred dynasty could destroy the Kongxian sect. Therefore, they could not help but feel nervous. It's not the emissary of the Taishu dynasty, but the residents of the 9 extinction heavenly lord. At this moment, Wuxia said. Residents of the 9 extinction heavenly lord? Some people, including Lu Ming, were puzzled. You might not be clear about the division of power in the Taishu dynasty. Let me explain it to you. Wuxia said. He sorted out his thoughts and continued. The Taishu dynasty used a system of enfeoffment. In addition to the Taishu dynasty's emissary occupying a large area of the core and the best territory, they also enfeoffed 27 heavenly lords. These 27 heavenly lords were the top experts of the Taishu dynasty. They were also people who had contributed greatly to the Taishu dynasty. The 27 heavenly lords established 27 heavenly lords' residences and ruled over a territory. It was like a country within a country. Their strength was also very shocking. And our Qin Tian starfield is under the rule of the residents of the 9 Extinction Heavenly Lord. Yu Wuya explained. I see. Lu Ming nodded. He had a rough understanding of the division of power in the Taishu dynasty. The 27 Heavenly Lords were the vassals of the Taishu dynasty. However, the people's faces did not relax. To them, whether it was the Taishu dynasty's emissary or the residents of the 9 Extinction Heavenly Lord, they were both giants that they could not fight against. There was no difference. The emissary from the residents of the 9 Extinction Heavenly Lord is almost here. Let's go out and welcome him. Yu said. Immediately, the higher-ups of the Kongxian school all flew out into outer space. They stood in space and waited quietly. About half an hour later, a series of dragon roars could be heard from afar. Then, the crowd saw 9 huge divine dragons pulling a chariot towards them at high speed. The 9 divine dragons were crimson red and were 10,000 meters long. Their auras were extremely shocking. Each of them gave off a terrifying pressure. They're using peak heavenly god divine dragons to pull the chariot. What a big deal! An elder exclaimed. Chapter 29-25. Using 9 divine dragons at the peak of the heavenly god realm to pull the chariot was indeed shocking. Everyone knew that the emissary from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion had arrived. The 9 dragons pulled the chariot at an astonishing speed. It soon arrived in front of Lu Ming and the rest and stopped in the starry sky. Everyone saw that there were more than 10 figures on the chariot. Among them, there were 4 middle-aged burly men. They were burly and exuded a terrifying aura. Supreme being, they were definitely supreme beings. Moreover, they were definitely elites among the supreme beings. The other 6 people were all young people. There were both men and women, and all of them had arrogant looks on their faces, as if they were high and mighty. Kongxian School's Zongzi, Ouyang Qingxiang, leads the entire Kongxian School to welcome the emissary from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. Ouyang Qingxiang stepped forward and cupped her fists. Welcome the emissary from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. The rest of the people from the Kongxian School also cupped their fists and bowed respectfully. Of course, Lu Ming was an exception. He just cupped his fists casually and looked at the people from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion curiously. Zongzi? Where's your sect leader? Why isn't he here to welcome us? A young man with 3 red scales between his eyebrows flew down from the chariot and said coldly. However, when his eyes fell on Ouyang Qingxiang, there was a flash of surprise in his eyes. To be honest, my sect leader has fallen a few hundred years ago. I'm the temporary successor of my sect leader. Ouyang Qingxiang replied. Oh. The young man with the scales between his eyebrows said softly and did not comment further. May I ask why you've suddenly come to my Kongxian school? Ouyang Qingxiang nervously asked this question. I was just about to tell you that the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion's treasure, the 9 Extinction Divine Crystal, has been stolen. The young man with the scales between his eyebrows said. Ouyang Qingxiang and the rest looked at each other. What did the theft of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion's treasure have to do with them? After investigation, the one who stole the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion's treasure, the 9 Extinction Divine Crystal, is from Qin Tian Star Field. The young man with the scales between his eyebrows suddenly said coldly. What? Ouyang Qingxiang, Yu Wuya, and the others' faces changed drastically. The person who stole the 9 Absolute Heavenly King Mansion's treasure was actually someone from Qin Tian Starfield. Could it be that the experts of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion suspected that it was done by their Kongxian school? When they thought of this, the Grand Elders and Inner Court Elders of the Kongxian sect broke out in a cold sweat. Esteemed emissaries, are you suspecting that it was done by people from my Kongxian school? That's impossible. With the number of experts in the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace, how could someone from my Kongxian school enter and steal the treasure? Yu Wuya hurriedly said. What you're saying is that the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion's defense is failing? The young man with the scale on his forehead said with a solemn expression. No, that's not what I meant. Lord Envoy has misunderstood, Misunderstood. Wuxia bowed repeatedly, cold sweat dripping down his face. He was a second sky of King God Realm warrior, but he had to bow and bend his knees in front of a junior. The other party's background was too big. It's best that you didn't. The young man with the scale on his forehead snorted and said, "This time, every force in the Qintian star field is a suspect. We will investigate all of them, no exceptions." "How do you want to investigate?" Ouyang Qingxiang asked. "It's simple. Gather everyone from the Kongxian school and take out your storage rings for us to check. Also, open your Sea of Consciousness and Dantian. We will also check your Sea of Consciousness and Dantian to prevent you from storing the treasure in your Sea of Consciousness and Dantian." The young man with the scale on his forehead said, "What? You want to check our storage rings? And our Sea of Consciousness and Danton?" Many people exclaimed, their faces pale. If that was the case, they would have no more secrets to hide. Storage rings, Sea of Consciousness and Dantian were the biggest secrets of a cultivator. It was impossible to let others see them. Who didn't have a secret? However, the other party wanted to check everyone's storage rings, Sea of Consciousness and Dantian in the Kongxian school. How overbearing! What? Do you have a problem with that? The young man with the scale on his forehead asked coldly as his face darkened. The others stepped down from the war chariot and looked at Lu Ming and the others with unfriendly eyes. "It would be strange if we don't have any objections." Everyone shouted in their hearts. "Dear emissaries, we really didn't steal the treasure of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. We wouldn't dare to do so even if we were given 100 guts. Yes, and our cultivation is low. We can't steal the treasure of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. Dear emissaries, please understand." The few elders of the Kongxian school spoke one after another. "Nonsense, I don't care. My mission here is to find the 9 Extinction Divine Crystal. Don't talk nonsense with me. Do as I say immediately." The young man with the scale on his forehead shouted coldly as if he was scolding a group of slaves. He was direct and overbearing, showing no mercy. Wuxia and some other Divine King experts looked pale. The other party was just a young man and they could see that he was only a level 6 heavenly god. If he dared to talk to them like that elsewhere, he would have been slapped to death. However, the other party was an emissary of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion, accompanied by a terrifying expert. They did not dare to do so. That being said, they were not willing to take out their storage rings and open their divine sense Dantian for the other party to inspect. For a moment, the atmosphere at the scene was somewhat heavy. "What's wrong? You're still not willing? Does your Kongxian school want to be wiped out?" The young man with the scale on his forehead snapped furiously. "How bold of you!" A voice could be heard. Lu Ming could not stand it any longer and stepped forward. Right from the start, the other party had been acting all high and mighty, looking down on them. It was as if Lu Ming and the rest had to do whatever he said. This really made Lu Ming unhappy. As soon as Lu Ming stepped forward, the young man with the scale on his forehead fixed his gaze on Lu Ming with an icy flicker. "Kid, what did you say?" The young man with the scale on his forehead snapped coldly. "Can't you hear what I said? Is there something wrong with your ears?" Lu Ming said coldly. Once his temper flared up, he would not care who the other party was. "You want us to give you our storage rings, Divine Sense Dantian, and Divine Sense Dantian as soon as you arrive. But just because you said so? Then let me check your Divine Sense Dantian first." Lu Ming continued. "Kid, you want to check my Divine Sense Dantian? Who do you think you are? You're just a lowly ant. How can you be compared to me? You'll do whatever I tell you to do. Do you understand?" The young man with the scale on his forehead bellowed, looking as if he had Lu Ming under his control. "Hee, you're talking as if you're very noble. In my opinion, we're all the same. There's no difference between high and low. If you want to investigate us, why can't we investigate you?" Lu Ming sneered. "Kid, you're bringing trouble to your Kongxian school. Do you understand?" The young man with the scale on his forehead threatened as his face turned colder. Chapter 29-26. You don't have to threaten me. Justice is in our hearts. Let me tell you, Kongxian school, did not steal the treasures of 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. It's impossible for you to search our Dantian and Sea of Consciousness. All cultivators know that the Dantian and Sea of Consciousness are the most important secrets. If you want to search our Dantian and Sea of Consciousness, you might as well kill us. Lu Ming said loudly. His Dantian and Sea of Consciousness contained a lot of secrets. The universe myriad Tao scripture could cultivate many kinds of divine powers. There was also the battle formula and measure formula. If any of them were exposed, he would die a horrible death. How could he let them search his Dantian? If you really have doubts, we can swear on our life origin to confirm that we did not steal the treasures of 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. In the end, Lu Ming gave in. After all, he had to think for the Kongxian school. Swear on your life origin? I don't trust you. The treasures of 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion are precious. You can sacrifice a few of your lives for it. It's totally worth it. The young man with the scale between his eyebrows said coldly. Swearing on their life origin, if they broke the oath, it would not be triggered immediately. Instead, they might die from Qigong deviation later on in their cultivation. The other party's meaning was obvious. Even if someone from Kongxian school really stole the treasures of 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion, they could swear on their life origin. At that time, those who stole the treasures would die because of the oath. However, it was worth it for the treasures of 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. Wuxia and the others looked pale. It was obvious that the other party wanted to search their Dantian and Sea of Consciousness. If that's the case, there's nothing more to say. Please go back. It's impossible for you to search our Dantian and Sea of Consciousness. Lu Ming's face turned cold. He had already made a concession, but the other party was still pressing on. He was too lazy to talk nonsense. Great. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. After all, I can still check your Dantian and Sea of Consciousness after killing you. The young man with the scale between his eyebrows laughed sinisterly. Boom, 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 boom. At this moment, the 4 burly men to release their life origin. The vast pressure covered the entire Kongxian star. What's going on? What a terrifying aura. A terrifying expert has arrived. Danger. The Kongxian school was in a state of chaos. Many people felt the aura and were horrified. Some people were even in the middle of cultivation. Their bodies shook violently and they vomited blood when the aura pressed down on them. 3rd King God Layer, all of them are at the 3rd King God Layer. Wuxia couldn't help but cry out in shock. The other eminent elders of the God King realm shuddered as their faces changed drastically. The 4 of them were intimidating experts of the 3rd King God realm. In the Qin Tian Star area, they were the Dean of the Mystic Academy and the Patriarch of the Invincible Kenzo. They were absolutely overlords. However, 4 of them had come at the same time. Lu Ming's expression changed too. The 9-Ju Heavenly King Palace was indeed intimidating. They could casually send out a 3rd Sky of King God Realm warrior. Moreover, he didn't seem to have a high status. Seems like I can only ask the Bone Devil to come here. Lu Ming's mind was racing. Facing this situation, he could only ask the Bone Devil to take action and beat them back. Then, he would take the Kongxian school to a place to hide. Except for this method, there was no other way. A bunch of country bumpkins. You haven't seen the world yet. A few 3rd Sky of King God Realm warriors can scare you like this. Seeing Lu Ming and the others change their expressions, the young man with the scale between his eyebrows felt happy. He couldn't help but mock them. Now, I will give you one last chance. Open your storage rings and your Dantian and Sea of Consciousness for us to check. Then we will spare your lives. The young man with the scale between his eyebrows continued coldly. Wuxia and the other eminent elders of the Kongxian school changed their expressions. The other side had 4 3rd Sky of King God Realm warriors. Once they attacked, they would definitely die. Thus, they hesitated. Compared to being killed, it was acceptable to let them check their Dantian and Sea of Consciousness. However, Lu Ming's attitude was firm, which made them hesitate. Lu Ming had the Nether Dragon behind him. I will give you 3 breaths of time. If you don't agree after 3 breaths, you will die. 3. The young man with the scale between his eyebrows said coldly. Wuxia and the others changed their expressions. They looked at Lu Ming and then at the young man with the scale between his eyebrows. They were extremely anxious. 2. The young man with the scale between his eyebrows said again. His eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. Qin Wushang, you are really impressive. You came to the Qin Tian Star Zone to act like a tyrant. Ha! At this moment, a mocking voice came from afar. Who is it? The young man with the scale between his eyebrows shouted coldly. He looked in the direction of the voice. In that direction, there was a sword light flying towards them at an astonishing speed. In the next instant, the sword light disappeared and a battle sword appeared in the starry sky. The battle sword was 10,000 meters long. It was incomparably huge. 5 figures stood on the sword. A young man and 4 big men. Wu Zifeng, Lu Ming, Ouyang Qingxiang, and the others were somewhat shocked. The young man on the sword was really Wu Zifeng. Miss Qingxiang, Lu Ming, Grandpa Yu. Wu Zifeng stepped down and greeted Lu Ming and Ouyang Qingxiang. Finally, he bowed to Wuxia. Zifeng, you came. Good, good, good. Seeing Wu Zifeng, Wuxia was overjoyed. He said good 3 times in a row and seemed to have completely relaxed. Wu Zifeng, it's you. The young man with the scale between his eyebrows couldn't help exclaiming when he saw Wu Zifeng. He seemed to recognize Wu Zifeng. Qin Wushang, now scram. Wu Zifeng coldly shouted. The young man with the scale between his eyebrows was called Qin Wushang. Wu Zifeng, I came this time to investigate the theft of the 9 extinction Heavenly King Manor's treasures. Do you want to interfere? Qin Wushang said coldly. Don't use the 9 extinction Heavenly King Manor to pressure me. You can deceive others, but you can't deceive me. You're just an ordinary disciple of the Qin family. You can't represent the 9 extinction Heavenly King Manor. Don't use a chicken feather as a token of authority in front of us. Wu Zifeng sneered. At the same time, the 4 burly men behind Wu Zifeng also burst out with shocking auras. They were all existences of the 3rd layer of the Divine King realm. Looks like Wu Zifeng also came from the Taishu dynasty. Lu Ming's heart moved. He already knew that Wu Zifeng wasn't someone from the Qin Tian star field. It turned out that he came from the Taishu dynasty. His background was bigger than he imagined. Even Qin Wushang seemed to be quite afraid of Wu Zifeng. Qin Wushang's face turned ugly. The 9 extinction Heavenly King Manor's territory was vast and boundless. Naturally, there were also many powerful forces under their command. These forces all existed in the form of families. Each and every huge and ancient family helped the 9 extinction Heavenly King Manor to rule the vast territory. Chapter 29-27. These ancient families had been passed down for countless years. Their foundations were deep and their strength was unfathomable. They were not something the Qin Tian star field could compare to. The Wu family and Qin family were such families. However, Qin Wushang's position in the Qin family was not high. Just like what Wu Zifeng said, he was not doing well in the 9 extinction Heavenly King Palace. He had only come to the Qin Tian star field to show off, and could not represent the 9 extinction Heavenly King Palace. Wu Zifeng, it seems like you must get involved. This is related to the 9 extinction divine crystal. If something happens, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Not to mention you, even your Wu family won't be able to bear the consequences. Qin Wushang said coldly. You don't have to worry about this. Moreover, I can guarantee that the Kongxian school is not the culprit who stole the 9 extinction divine crystal. Now you can scram. Wu Zifeng said. Good, very good. I can leave, but... Qin Wushang gritted his teeth. Halfway through his words, his gaze suddenly swept towards Lu Ming. His figure trembled, and like a ray of light, he charged towards Lu Ming, sending a palm strike towards Lu Ming. The energy whistled and the palm force pressed toward Lu Ming with overwhelming force. 6th level Heavenly God Realm, Saint Grade Divine Power. In an instant, Lu Ming judged Qin Wushang's strength. At the crucial moment, Lu Ming did not have time to think. He could only circulate his divine power and block with his palm. However, Lu Ming did not expect Qin Wushang to suddenly attack him. In a hurry, he could only circulate 30% of his divine power. Boom! The palm strike collided, and Lu Ming's body violently shook. He retreated 1,000 meters before stabilizing his body. Qin Wushang, what are you doing? Wu Zifeng furiously shouted. What am I doing? This lowly ant doesn't know how to respect his seniors and dares to talk back to me. Today, I will not pursue the matter of the Kongxian school. However, this person must die. Qin Wushang shouted, his face malevolent and filled with powerful killing intent. After he finished speaking, Qin Wushang's aura became even stronger. He took a step forward, and a strong pressure pressed down on Lu Ming wave after wave. This person isn't any weaker than Paragon Cosmos. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Qin Wushang's cultivation was at the 6th layer heaven god realm, and the god force he controlled was at the sacred level. He was a genius on the same level as 9 supremes. However, from Wu Zifeng's tone, Qin Wushang seemed to be doing well in the Qin clan. Such a genius was only average in the Qin clan. How many geniuses did the Qin clan have? In other words, how many geniuses did the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion, or even the entire Taishu dynasty have? For a moment, Lu Ming's imagination ran wild, and he even had some desire in his heart. Now, among the younger generation of the Qin Heavenly Star Field, Lu Ming was almost standing at the peak. For example, Mo Jiuyi, Limitless Sword Dao, Song Yan, Jun Po, and the others. As long as they had not broken through, he was confident that he could defeat them. Therefore, he longed for stronger opponents who could bring him pressure and make him stronger. As long as I'm here, don't even think about touching a hair on Lu Ming's head. Wu Zifeng said coldly. He waved his hand. Bang! Behind Wu Zifeng, a burly man stepped out. His berserk aura immediately blocked Qin Wushang. But then, another burly man behind Qin Wushang also stepped out. His aura erupted like a volcano, instantly breaking apart the Wu clan's aura. Qin Wushang regained his freedom. Let the younger generation handle their own matters. We, the older generation, will just watch. That burly man from the Qin clan coldly stared at the Wu clan's expert. Both sides' experts faced each other. However, both sides had brought about the same number of people, and their cultivation bases were also about the same. They just happened to be in a standoff. They couldn't interfere in the matter between Lu Ming and Qin Wushang. That's right. The younger generation's matters should be handled by themselves. I want to see what gave a lowly ant from the Qin Tian Star Field the courage to speak to me like that. Qin Wushang laughed. His 6th layer heavenly god cultivation base rose to the peak. He took a step forward, walking toward Lu Ming confidently. Just now, he had forced Lu Ming back with a single palm. He could see that Lu Ming was only a 1st layer heavenly god. In his opinion, a 1st layer heavenly god would not be able to withstand a single blow. Qin Wushang, you dare! Wu Zifeng shouted. Unfortunately, his cultivation base was even lower than Qin Wushang's. He couldn't wipe his hands. Brother Wu, since he wants to fight, then I'll accompany him. You don't need to interfere. Lu Ming raised his hand, stopping Wu Zifeng. Kid, you've got guts. However, a piece of trash like you still wants to fight me? Kneel down. Qin Wushang harumphed coldly and raised his hand once again. A giant palm was formed and slammed down at Lu Ming, trying to force Lu Ming to his knees. You're the one who should kneel down. Lu Ming's calm voice appeared. Meanwhile, 10 godly flames were ignited in his body. 10 types of divine powers circulated wildly, gathering together and dashing toward Lu Ming's arm. Lu Ming pointed forward, firing a spear glow into the sky. It soared into the sky, brighter than a meteor. The spear glow collided with Qin Wushang's palm, resulting in a great explosion. Qin Wushang's palm exploded and dissipated. What? Qin Wushang was astounded. Why had Lu Ming's aura suddenly skyrocketed? His attack was utterly shocking too. It had shattered his attack with a single move. The people who came with Qin Wushang couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock. So powerful, Lu Ming is getting more and more powerful. Wu Zifeng was also astonished. You only have this bit of strength. I thought the geniuses of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace were stronger. Lu Ming's voice was filled with mockery. Kid, you do have some strength. However, I didn't use my full strength just now. Now regret it. 7 injuries Divine Fist. Qin Wushang shouted and changed his attack. His palm turned into a fist. His body emitted a strange radiance that gathered on his fists. Boom! Qin Wushang threw out 2 consecutive punches. The 2 fists were like 2 meteors that shot towards Lu Ming. They were fast, but their power was shocking. This kind of battle strength was no longer below Sovereign Universe's full strength. He was definitely one of the top geniuses in the Qintian star field. However, with Lu Ming's current strength, it was easy for him to deal with an opponent like Sovereign Universe. In fact, Lu Ming didn't even need to use his ancient god physique or the battle character art. It was enough to rely on his 10 types of divine power, as well as various divine skills and secret techniques. Divine Dragon Dharma Idol. Lu Ming also threw out a punch. A dragon's roar resounded through the sky. A huge 9-clawed dragon appeared and pounced at Qin Wushang. Then, Lu Ming threw out another punch. Another 9-clawed dragon appeared. The 2 9-clawed dragons twisted their bodies and pounced forward. The 9 dragon claws on their abdomens continuously clawed out, letting out a terrifying whistling sound as if sharp swords were tearing through the air. In reality, that was indeed the case. Now that Lu Ming had cultivated the invincible sword art, he could control the invincible sword energy. His divine power contained terrifying sword energy attacks. The invincible sword energy was used on the 9-clawed dragon's claws, causing them to become as sharp as swords. This allowed Lu Ming's attack power to reach a new level. Chapter 29-28. Bang! Bang! The 9-clawed dragon's sharp claws continuously clawed at the fist seal, resulting in a series of explosions. The fist seal continued to vibrate as cracks began to appear on its surface. How is this possible? How is this possible? Qin Wushang yelled in his heart. This was simply unbelievable. He had already used 100% of his strength and used his ultimate move, but now he was still at a disadvantage. This was simply inconceivable. He was a 6th-layer heaven god, and had even mastered the sacred divine force. On the other hand, Lu Ming was only a 1st-layer heaven god. An existence that he had treated as an ant had actually displayed such shocking strength, causing his pride to suffer a great blow. I can't lose. How could I lose to an ant from the Qintian star field? 7 injuries godly fist, 7 injuries stacking. Qin Wushang yelled in his heart. His face turned pale as he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. After spitting out the blood, Qin Wushang's face turned pale, but his fist intent had grown stronger. Bang! 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 Qin Wushang continued to throw out punches. Terrifying fist intents were fired continuously, merging with the fist seal from before, causing the power of his fist seal to skyrocket, emitting a blinding glow. Using your own injuries in exchange for an increase in attack power, such a brainless secret technique, hee. Lu Ming chuckled coldly as he took a step forward. Godly dragon, come out. Lu Ming yelled. In the sky, the cries of dragons continued, and another 4 cries were heard. Following this, another 4 9-clawed dragons appeared above Lu Ming's head. Including the previous one, there were a total of 6 9-clawed dragon transcendents. After 200 years of cultivation, Lu Ming had already refined 6 godly dragon transcendents. The true power of the godly dragon transcendence technique was gradually revealed. The 6 9-clawed dragon transcendents lunged at Qin Wushang. The vast dragon aura caused the 9 dragons pulling the Qin clan's chariot to be terrified as they backed off. This was the suppression of rank. In the mystical dragon tribe, the 9-clawed dragon was undoubtedly at the top. The power of 6 9-clawed dragon dharma forms was astonishing. Moreover, Lu Ming had mastered the battle character's secret art. Even if he didn't multiply his battle prowess, any divine skill or secret art would be strengthened by the battle character's secret art. The attacks from both sides met in the air and exploded into a shocking collision. Following that, Qin Wushang's fist imprints continuously exploded and crumbled. Qin Wushang spat out large mouthfuls of blood as his figure retreated rapidly. Lu Ming stepped out. The 6 nine-clawed dragons roared and chased after him. "Quick, come and help me suppress this ant." Qin Wushang roared. Even now, he still felt that he was high and mighty, a level higher than Lu Ming. This was the common problem of those who were born into great powers. Just like the geniuses of the Qin Tian star field, when facing the people of the chaotic astral river, they would look down on the people of the chaotic astral river, thinking that they were superior and had a noble status. As for those who had climbed up from the bottom, they would not have such a mentality. Kill! There were 5 other youths who came with Qin Wushang. At this moment, all of them were charging towards Lu Ming. The moment these 5 youths attacked, the people of the Kongxian school were shocked. Because these 5 youths were all terrifying geniuses. All of them had mastered divine powers. 3 of them were at the 6th level of the heavenly god realm, and 2 were at the 5th level of the heavenly god realm. The 3 of them were at the 6th level of the heavenly god realm, and were no weaker than Qin Wushang. The 6 experts joined forces and launched their respective ultimate moves towards Lu Ming. 7 injuries divine fist. Qin Wushang roared. He was injured by Lu Ming, but the power of his fist energy was stronger. He had cultivated a secret technique unique to the Qin clan. The more injured he was, the stronger his fist energy would be. However, facing such an attack, Lu Ming's expression was still calm. Battle character secret, double battle strength. With a thought, Lu Ming activated the double battle strength of the battle character secret art. A powerful force burst out from his body, filling his entire body. The 6 nine-clawed divine dragons roared. As their bodies twisted, they swelled up rapidly. Their bodies grew larger, and they became even more powerful. The 6 nine-clawed dragons lunged at the 6 youths. Meanwhile, Lu Ming condensed a long spear in his hand, which was as huge as a mountain, and slammed it towards one of the youths. The young man was using all his strength to fight against a 9-clawed dragon, and had no ability to resist the attack of the long spear. He was directly suppressed by the spear and was sent flying like a broken sandbag. He was severely injured, and his aura was weak. Following that, Lu Ming attacked another young man with his spear. After Lu Ming activated the double battle strength, trash like Qin Wushang was no longer a match for Lu Ming and was easily crushed. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming continuously attacked with his spear. Every spear attack was able to suppress one person. In an instant, the 5 youths who attacked were all sent flying by Lu Ming and were severely injured. Finally, Lu Ming's cold gaze swept towards Qin Wushang. Ah! Qin Wushang screamed in fright and turned to run. "You haven't even knelt down and you want to leave?" Lu Ming spoke coldly. He manipulated the 6 divine dragon dharma characteristics and surrounded Qin Wushang. "Brats, stop!" At this moment, a big man from the Qin clan shouted and stepped forward, wanting to personally deal with Lu Ming. However, a big man from the Wu clan stopped him. Let the younger generation solve their own problems. It's better for the older generation not to interfere. The big man from the Wu clan sneered. This sentence was previously said by the big man from the Qin clan. Now, the big man from the Wu clan returned it to him. "You!" The big man from the Qin clan was furious. He stared at Lu Ming and said coldly, "Qin Wushang is a disciple of the Qin clan. Although he isn't a core disciple, if you want him to kneel, you should think carefully about whether you can bear the consequences." His voice was cold and full of threat. Even if Qin Wushang wasn't a core disciple of the Qin clan, he was still a member of the Qin clan and represented the Qin clan's face. Making Qin Wushang kneel was equivalent to slapping the Qin clan's face. I've never heard of the Qin clan. I only know that if you want someone to pay for something, you should be prepared to pay for it. If he wants me to kneel, then he should be prepared to kneel. Kneel for me. Lu Ming shouted coldly, not giving him any face at all. The 6 nine-clawed dragon's huge dragon claws continuously pressed down. How could Qin Wushang resist? After barely blocking a few moves, he was controlled by the 9-clawed dragon Dharma idol. With a plop, He knelt down in the air in front of Lu Ming. Qin Wushang let out a roar like a pig being slaughtered. This was a great humiliation. He wasn't a core disciple in the Qin clan and didn't have a good life. If this matter were to spread to the Qin clan, his life would be even worse and he would become a disgrace to the Qin clan. At this moment he even had the heart to die. The other 5 youths from the Qin clan were pale with fear. They secretly rejoiced that they weren't the first to step forward. Otherwise, their ending wouldn't be any better. Chapter 29-29. Scram! With a wave of his hand, a burst of energy sent Qin Wushang flying. A large man from the Qin clan caught Qin Wushang, his expression extremely cold. "Brat, you have guts. I hope you never step into the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion in your lifetime. Otherwise, you will regret what you did today. Let's go." The large man from the Qin clan left behind those words, then brought Qin Wushang and the others up to the war chariot. Then, the 9 dragons roared and pulled the war chariot away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Wuxia and the others let out a long breath, but their hearts were still very heavy, as if a huge rock was pressing down on them. Although the Kongxian school was temporarily safe, they knew that this matter was far from over. The treasure of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion being stolen was definitely a big matter. Immediately, they welcomed Wu Zifeng and the Wu clan into the Kongxian school. After some explanation, Lu Ming found out that when Wuxia was young, he had unintentionally become friends with Wu Zifeng's grandfather. The two of them had gone on adventures together and had a friendship of life and death. After that, Yu Linglong and Wu Zifeng were betrothed before they were born. Therefore, Wu Zifeng often went to the Kongxian school, and Yu Linglong also often went to the Wu clan to play. "Zifeng, what exactly is going on?" In a large hall, Wuxia asked Wu Zifeng. "I'm also not very clear about the details of this matter. I only know that about a few months ago, the treasure of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion, the 9 Extinction Divine Crystal, was suddenly stolen. The thief's methods were extremely brilliant, and no one discovered it. However, the thief still left behind some traces. The experts of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion used those traces to come to a conclusion. The thief is very likely from the Qin Tian star field." Wu Zifeng said. "How is that possible? The defense of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion is extremely secretive, and experts are as numerous as clouds. Who in the Qin Tian star field would be able to steal the treasure from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion?" Wuxia and the others could not believe it at all. In the Qin Tian star area, Xing Mo, the dean of the Mystic Academy, had the strength of the 3rd King God realm. However, in the Jianghu Heavenly King Palace, such a cultivation base was far from enough. Not to mention the 3rd layer of the King God realm, even the 4th or 5th layer of the King God realm was far from enough. Who in the Qin Tian star field had the ability to steal the treasures of the 9 Extremes Heavenly King Mansion? I'm also confused about that. However, the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace won't give up. This time, it's not only the Qin clan that has come, the other clans have also sent their people. Wu Zifeng said. Everyone's expression became even more serious. This matter was not simple at all. Everyone chatted for a while more before dispersing. Sure enough, a few days later, news began to spread throughout the Qin Tian star field. The 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion and the various aristocratic families came. Not only was the Kongxian school visited, but all the major forces in the Qin Tian star field were also visited. For example, the 3 overlord forces, the Ice Soul clan, and the Scarlet Flame clan. The people of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion were overbearing. No matter which force they belonged to, they would check their storage rings and Dantian's Sea of Consciousness. The other forces were not like the Kongxian school, who had the Wu clan's help. Facing the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion and the other major forces, all of them were helpless. They could only accept the inspection of their storage rings and Dantian's Sea of Consciousness. Even the Scarlet Flame clan and the Ice Soul clan were no exception. However, the result was that they did not find anything. There was no clue about the 9 Extinction Divine Crystal. The people of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion were furious. They gave the Qin star field 10 years. If they did not hand over the 9 extinction divine crystal after 10 years, they would send an army to trample the Qin star field. For a time, the people of the Qin star field were in a state of panic. Who stole the treasure of the 9 extinction heavenly king mansion? Why aren't they handing it over? Do they want to kill everyone? Who is it? For their own selfish reasons, they have harmed the entire star field. They will die a horrible death. Many people cursed. The Qin star field was in a state of turmoil, but they did not find anything. Not long after, another piece of news spread throughout the Qin star field. During this period of time, the geniuses of the various major forces of the 9 extinction heavenly king mansion entered the Qin star field one after another. There were even some geniuses who set up an arena in the myriad spirit star to challenge the geniuses of the Qin star field. In the end, the geniuses of the Qin star field were crushed and did not obtain a single victory. Ants will always be ants. So useless. What geniuses? They are all trash. The geniuses of the 9 extinction heavenly king mansion were extremely powerful. They belittled the geniuses of the Qin star field as if they were worthless. Some people were furious and went to challenge the geniuses of the 9 extinction heavenly king mansion. However, the result was destined. No one won. This made the 9 extinction heavenly king mansion even more arrogant. If the younger generation of the Qin star field can defeat us, we can extend the time limit to 100 years, or even 1,000 years. In the end, some of the geniuses of the 9 extinction heavenly king mansion said. This made the experts of the various major forces of the Qin star field excited. If they could really extend the time limit, they might have a chance to find the person who stole the treasure and avoid being annihilated. In an instant, the top geniuses of the various major forces moved out and rushed to the myriad spirit star. For example, the divine princes of the 3 overlords, as well as the top geniuses of the Ice Soul race and the Scarlet Flame race, all rushed to the myriad spirit star. Of course, the various major forces also secretly sent experts to the myriad spirit star. In an instant, the myriad spirit star, the largest trading planet in the Qin star field, became extremely lively. Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, Ouyang Qingxiang, Yu Linglong, Wu Zifeng, and the others also came to the myriad spirit star. The arena set up by the geniuses of the 9 extinction heavenly king mansion is in the central square. Let's go take a look. Lu Ming said. Soon, they arrived at the central square. The central square was a huge open space. In the middle of the open space, there was a huge battle arena. During this period, the area was crowded with people. On one side of the battle arena, there was a row of seats. On the seats, there was a group of young men and women. These young men and women were all arrogant. Their eyes swept across the crowd in all directions with faint disdain. They were all geniuses from the various major families of the 9 extinction heavenly king mansion. There are quite a lot of people. Unfortunately, they're all trash. None of them are decent. A young man in a golden robe said indifferently, That's right. They're all trash. No matter what, this is still a star field. It's really disappointing to have just a few cats and dogs. Another young man said disdainfully. When the surrounding people of the Qin star field heard this, they were furious. Humph, the real geniuses of our Qin star field haven't arrived yet. Don't be arrogant. Someone couldn't help but say. Oh, and the real geniuses? Don't tell me you're just bragging? Ha. The young man in the golden robe laughed disdainfully. Who's bragging? I believe those geniuses will arrive soon. At that time, they might be able to fight with you. The person from the Qin star field said. Chapter 29:30. So much nonsense. If you have the ability, then get him to come out. The golden-robed youth coldly shouted. This brat, it's this brat. Suddenly, a youth on the stage roared as he furiously stared at Lu Ming. That's right, he was staring at Lu Ming. That youth had a scale between his eyebrows. He was one of the 6 youths who had gone to the Kongxian school with Qin Wusheng. In fact, Lu Ming had seen this youth when he arrived, but Lu Ming had no intention of avoiding him. He had come here to find an opportunity to fight, so why should he avoid him? All of a sudden, all the youths in the fighting ring looked at Lu Ming. This is the guy who defeated you? And humiliated Qin Wushang? Another youth coldly said with a cold gaze. This youth also had a scale between his eyebrows. It was silver-white and flickered under the sunlight. Clearly, this youth was also from the Qin clan. This person was called Qin Wuyo. That's right, it's him, it's this guy. The youth who had gone to the Kongxian school roared. Good, very good. Qin Wuyo's indifferent voice sounded, and his body emitted a cold, killing intent. Boom. He abruptly stood up from his seat as a berserk aura spread out in all directions. Divine grade divine power, he has divine grade divine power. What a terrifying aura. Heavens, he's a god's son. Many people around the stage roared. God's sons were rare in the Qin Tian star field, and each one of them was a peerless genius whose name shook the vast starry sky. Now, a random person from the other side was such a person. It was truly shocking. You dare to humiliate my Qin clan's disciple? Although he's trash, it's not up to you to humiliate him. Now, get up here and accept your death. Qin Wuyo's cold voice sounded, and the gaze he looked at Lu Ming became even colder. Everyone's gaze turned to Lu Ming. Who's this? In the Qin Tian star field, many people did not know Lu Ming. After all, only a small number of people knew about the battle in the galaxy for the planet core. Most people didn't know that Lu Ming had fought with Mo Jui, the divine prince of the Mystic Academy, and even suppressed him. I know him. He's a saint from Kongxian School. It's said that he's very talented. The holy son of Kongxian School? The gap between him and the other party is too big. He probably doesn't dare to accept the challenge, right? That's for sure. He's a divine son. Wouldn't he be courting death if he went up? Around the fighting ring, many people were discussing. For you. Lu Ming's expression was calm as he spoke. Qin clan, Qin Wuyo. Qin Wuyo said. Sorry, you misunderstood me. What I meant was, who do you think you are? You want me to fight and I have to fight? Lu Ming smiled faintly. What did you say? Qin Wuyo's expression instantly darkened, and his murderous intent became several times colder. What's wrong with your ears? Lu Ming said faintly. Around them, the hearts of many people from the Qin Tian star zone beat wildly. They were all impressed by Lu Ming's courage. Some people even thought that although Lu Ming didn't dare to fight, he was really brave to speak to the other party like that. You're courting death. Qin Wuyo's voice became extremely cold. As soon as he finished speaking, his body dashed down like an angry lion, pouncing on its prey. 6th level Heavenly God Realm. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. He saw through the other party's cultivation as soon as he attacked. A 6th level Heavenly God Realm with divine grade divine force. This person was likely to be at the same level as Mo Jui. His combat strength was far above Qin Wushang's. Lu Ming circulated the divine force in his body and was about to attack. Want to fight? I'll take you on. Suddenly, a voice was heard not far away from Lu Ming. Then, a burly figure dashed out, and a blazing aura filled the air. Boom! The two figures met in midair and collided fiercely. Like two meteors colliding, circles of shockwaves were formed, rushing in all directions. It was extremely terrifying. Then, the two figures trembled and floated backward. It's him! Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The one who rushed out to exchange blows with Qin Wuyo was the god son of the boundless sacred ground, Tsang Yen Pejun. It's Tsang Yen Pejun. He's made his move. A god's son has arrived. This is going to be interesting. Lu Ming is really lucky. Otherwise, he would have been in danger just now. Seeing Tsang Yen Pejun make his move, many people were overjoyed. Tsang Yen Pejun, as the top figure of the younger generation in the Qin Tian star zone, was far more powerful than the other Sky Prides. With him making his move, they could finally fight with the Sky Prides of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion. Interesting. I didn't expect there to be a decent opponent in the Qin Tian star zone. Qin Wuyo stared at Tsang Yen Pejun, revealing a strong fighting spirit. Cut the crap. Make your move. I want to see how strong the sky prides of the 9 extinction Heavenly King Mansion are. Song Yen Pajun shouted coldly. The burning aura on his body became hotter and hotter. His fighting spirit was stronger than his opponents. Song Yen Pajun moved and rushed to the fighting stage. His intention was self-evident. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Qin Wuyo said ferociously. His body flashed and rushed to the fighting stage. Boom. Without any superfluous words, Song Yen Pajun and Qin Wuyo fought fiercely. 7 Injuries Divine Fist. Qin Wuyo's body glowed as he used the 7 Injuries Divine Fist. 2 terrifying fist prints burst out and crushed Song Yen Pajun. Although it was the same 7 Injuries Divine Fist, Qin Wuyo's was much stronger than Qin Wushang's. Song Yen Exploding Fist. The Song Yen Army Destroyer was also a fist technique, but his fist technique was different. It was direct and domineering, and every punch was like a star exploding, containing boundless power. The two of them clashed head-on and fought fiercely. The huge fighting ring was filled with the power of their fists. In an instant, the two of them had exchanged dozens of blows and there was no clear winner. Boom. In the end, the two of them retreated and stood on opposite sides of the fighting stage. Interesting. I didn't expect there to be a decent opponent in the Qin Tian Star Zone. However, one is far from enough. Are there any decent experts? Come out together. The golden-robed young man in the 9 extinction Heavenly King Mansion stood up and said lazily as he looked around. Clang. As soon as the golden-robed young man finished speaking, the sound of a sword rang out not far away. Then, a sword radiance flashed and a young man with a sword on his back appeared above the fighting stage. This young man was handsome. He was the divine son of the invincible Kenzo, Sword Dao Wuji. As soon as Sword Dao Wuji appeared, a demonic light flashed from another direction. A young man in a black robe appeared above the fighting stage. He was the divine son of the Mystic Academy, Mog. The divine sons of the 3 overlord forces had gathered. Interesting. Anyone else? The golden-robed young man asked again. Since you want to meet him, let's meet him. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. In the sky, a young man in a white robe slowly walked over. Chapter 29:31. Every time the white-robed youth took a step, a snow-white divine bird would appear under his feet, making him look like an immortal. He looks a little like Bing Qing. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. It's Bing Xian, the 7th prince of the Ice Spirit clan, the strongest genius. Someone exclaimed. Just as I thought. Lu Ming pondered. No wonder he looked a little like Bing Qing. Bing Qing had told him that there were 4 people in the ancient god world who had cultivated the ancient god body. Her 7th brother was one of them. However, this name was really feminine. However, the temperament of the Ice Immortal was quite fitting for this name. Boom. Just as the Ice Immortal came out, a hot aura came from the other side. A wave of heat spread out. Then, a burly young man stepped out and appeared on the other side of the Ice Immortal. Scarlet Flame Demonic Pine. Someone said that person's name. This youth was a peerless genius from the Scarlet Flame clan and was as famous as Bing Xian. The appearance of Bing Xian and Scarlet Flame Demonic Pine made the golden-robed youth's eyes narrow. This was because the two of them gave him a lot of pressure. Interesting. I didn't expect the Qin Tian Star Field to have so many interesting geniuses. The golden-robed youth said coldly. However, his expression finally became more serious and no longer showed his lazy expression. Does what you said before still count? At this moment, Lu Ming spoke. He was asking about the other party's promise that if the geniuses of the Qin Tian Star Field could defeat them, they would give the Qin Tian Star Field more time. Of course, as long as you can defeat us, we will give you 100 years. The golden-robed youth said. 100 years is too short. As long as we defeat you, you will have to leave the Qin Tian Star Field forever and never come back. Lu Ming said. Leave forever? How arrogant of you. That's impossible. The golden-robed youth's face darkened as he said coldly. What? You're not confident? Lu Ming sneered. What a joke. Although you have a few geniuses, You want to defeat us with just the few of you? What a joke. The golden-robed youth sneered. Then why don't we agree? Lu Ming retorted sarcastically. It's a matter of principle if you don't agree. It doesn't mean that you have a chance to win. It's absolutely impossible for you to withdraw forever. However, I can report it to the higher-ups and ask them to delay it for a while longer. After saying that, the golden-robed young man took out a voice transmission jade talisman and sent out a message. Then he waited quietly. It didn't take long for the young man in a golden robe to receive a reply. His expression changed, and then he said, "If you can defeat us, then we'll give you 1,000 years at most. That's the longest limit we can give you. Of course, you won't have the chance." The golden-robed young man was still full of confidence. Whether or not there's a chance, we'll only know after we fight. If it's 1,000 years, so be it. Let's fight. Lu Ming immediately agreed. Emoji, Sword Dao Wuji, Song Yen, Jun Pe, the Scarlet Flame Demon Pine, the Ice Immortal, and the rest of the geniuses remained silent. Many people found it strange that Lu Ming was acting on his own, but Emoji Yi and the others didn't stop him. In front of these divine sons, did Lu Ming have the right to do so? Naturally, they didn't know that Emoji and the others were aware of Lu Ming's strength. They had long regarded Lu Ming as someone on the same level as them. As for the Ice Immortal and the Scarlet Flame Demon Pine, although they hadn't fought with Lu Ming before, they were well informed. Naturally, they knew about the fight between Lu Ming and Emoji. Therefore, when Lu Ming agreed, they didn't stand out to oppose. If they could get 1,000 years, it would be good enough. It was much better than 10 years. Wait a minute. Now is not the time to fight. The battle will be held 3 months later. The location will be here. The golden-robed young man suddenly said. 3 months later? That's fine too. Lu Ming's heart moved, and he nodded in agreement. He understood that the other party had delayed for 3 months because there were still geniuses who hadn't arrived. However, he also needed time. How will we fight in 3 months? What are the rules? The Ice Immortal asked. It's very simple. We'll have an arena battle. Both sides will defend the arena. The last person standing on the arena will be the winner. Of course, there will be a limit to the number of people on each side. Otherwise, the battle will be endless. How about this? I'll give you a chance. We'll send 9 people, and you can send 18. How about that? The golden-robed young man said. Okay, it's settled. The Ice Immortal immediately agreed. It would be a bastard if he didn't take advantage of the situation. Although the number of people didn't matter much in a battle between top geniuses, this was an arena battle. Both sides would take turns to fight. The more people there were, the more they could consume the opponent's divine power. More or less, it would be of some use. Then it's settled. 3 months later, let's fight here. Let's see what kind of battle strength the younger generation of Qin Tian Star Field has. Let's go. After the golden-robed young man finished speaking, he turned into a ray of golden light and soared into the sky, leaving the place. Someone helped you block today, but you won't have this opportunity every time. I hope you won't meet me in the next arena battle. Qin Wuyo glanced at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. Qin Wuyo, I'm afraid you've made a mistake. I guarantee that this kid won't dare to fight in the next arena battle. Another young man from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence sneered. There's no need to use such a low-level method to provoke me. I'll definitely participate in the next arena battle. Lu Ming said indifferently. I hope so. Qin Wuyo said and left the place. The people of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence left one after another. Let's discuss the candidates for the next arena battle 3 months later. The Ice Immortal looked at the Scarlet Flame Demonic Pine, Emoji Yi, Jian Dao Wu Ji, Lu Ming, Song Yen and Pajun. You guys can discuss the candidates. It's fine as long as you leave me a spot. Lu Ming said and left with Qiu Yu and the others. Lu Ming, he's really going to fight? He really ate a bear's heart and leopard's guts. If it wasn't for Song Yen and Pajun, he would have died. For the sake of his face. He was provoked in front of so many people. If he didn't accept the challenge, wouldn't he lose all his face? That's true. However, It's unwise to risk his life for the sake of his face. The surrounding people were discussing animatedly. How would these people know how powerful young master is? When Qiu heard this, she pouted unhappily. It's fine. Lu Ming smiled slightly and didn't mind. They left the place and found an inn to stay in. Lu Ming stayed in a guest room alone and sat cross-legged on the bed. Old Liang, 200 years have passed. How's your refining of the star core's energy? Lu Ming asked. Chapter 29-32. Given his current cultivation level, Lu Ming did not have the slightest confidence to participate in the arena battle this time. The geniuses of the 9 Extinction Heavenly Emperor Palace were unfathomable. He had no idea how strong they were. The ones that appeared this time might only be a drop in the ocean. Lu Ming wanted to improve himself to his strongest state. Lu Ming needed the energy of the star core to break through to the next level. For the past 200 years, Lu Ming had not used the energy of the star core. He had been absorbing the energy himself. Otherwise, his cultivation would not have improved so slowly. After 200 years, the quantifier formula should have refined a portion of the energy. I did refine a little, but not a lot. It's because your cultivation is too low that my refining speed is greatly reduced. The quantifier formula complained. It should be enough for me to break through to the second layer heaven god realm. Lu Ming muttered. Why was it that he was the one to blame in the end? Your cultivation has reached the peak first layer heaven god realm. You should be able to break through to the second layer heaven god realm. However, since you've mastered 10 different kinds of god force, it's hard to say if you can break through to the third layer heaven god realm. The quantifier formula said. You already have so much energy. Come, give it a try. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. If he could break through to the next level, he would have a greater chance of success. Then you're ready. The quantifier formula's voice echoed. Following it, the quantifier formula in his divine sense emitted a blinding glow. A pure energy burst out from it and surged into Lu Ming's limbs and bones. Lu Ming fully executed the universe's 10,000 Dao art and began to absorb the energy to break through to the next level. The energy was too strong. Lu Ming could feel his body swelling as it was filled with wild energy. Such a strong energy, but it only refined a small part of the star core. Lu Ming was overjoyed instead of being shocked. The energy was extremely pure. Even though it was strong, it was being absorbed at a rapid pace too. Under the effect of the universe's 10,000 Dao art, the energy was rapidly absorbed and turned into god force for Lu Ming. The flames of the 10 godly flames in his dantian grew brighter. Boom! A rumbling sound came from Lu Ming's body as the flames of the 10 divine flames strung together. In an instant, Lu Ming's aura rose by a large margin. Second level heavenly god, breakthrough. After breaking through to the second level of the heavenly god realm, Lu Ming did not stop, because there was still a lot of energy left in his body. Lu Ming continued to refine this surge of energy. His cultivation level was increasing rapidly. Stable second level celestial god, early level second level celestial god, mid-level second level celestial god. Very soon, Lu Ming broke through to peak second level celestial deity. He was not far from the third level of the celestial god realm. There was still some energy left in his body, but it was not enough to break through to the third level of the heavenly god realm. Do it in one go. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with determination. With a wave of his hand, a large pile of divine crystals appeared on the ground. These divine crystals were all mid-grade divine crystals. The divine qi within them was many times denser than low-grade divine crystals. This was a rare opportunity. Lu Ming wanted to break through to the third level of the celestial god realm in one go. Bang bang bang, the pile of divine crystals exploded, turning into rolling divine qi. As soon as Lu Ming opened his mouth, the divine qi rushed into Lu Ming's mouth like a tidal wave, and was swallowed by Lu Ming. Rumble rumble. Lu Ming began to refine the divine qi with all his might. He wanted to combine this divine qi with the remaining energy from before to break through to the third level of the heavenly god realm. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Lu Ming had accumulated a large amount of energy by refining the divine crystals. Let's begin. With a thought, the energy from refining the divine crystals merged with the previous energy and began to break through to the third level of the heavenly god realm. 3 months had passed. A large number of living beings had gathered at the central square of the myriad spirit star. The Qin star field was filled with people from all kinds of races. This time, even many of the top experts from the various factions had come. For example, the elders of various factions were secretly observing. After all, this battle was not only a battle between the younger generation, but it was also related to the safety of the Qin star field. The people of the 9 Extinction Heavenly Emperor Palace are here. Someone suddenly yelled. In the distance, several rays of light were flying toward the square. There were a few dozen of them. Among them, there were more than 10 older ones. It was obvious that they were all experts with outstanding strength. The rest were all young people. These people stood in the air above the fighting ring and looked around proudly. Compared to the number of people around the square, their numbers were pitiful. However, their aura had suppressed the people of the Qin star field instead. Qin star field, where are your people? Come out. It was the young man in a golden robe again. He stepped forward and his voice echoed across the square. The ice immortal stepped forward and appeared in the sky. Following it, the crimson flame demonic pine, Moj, sword Dao Wuji, and the others stepped forward. There were 17 people in total. Almost all of them were geniuses from the Crimson Flame tribe, the Ice Soul tribe, and the 3 Overlord factions. Only 17 people. It seems like one of you is missing. Where's the arrogant kid from last time? Why isn't he here? The young man in a golden robe glanced around and said with a smile. The Ice Immortal and the others looked at each other and their eyes sank. They were indeed short of one person. That was because Lu Ming had not arrived yet. It's Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't come. Where's Lu Ming? He wouldn't dare to come at such a crucial moment, right? He definitely won't dare to come. He offended the geniuses of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace. Why would he dare to come? He'll only die if he comes. I guessed it. He's just being stubborn and doesn't dare to come out. The people of the Qin star field started to murmur. Most of them felt that Lu Ming didn't dare to come. That kid only knows how to talk. He's a coward. Qin Wuyo sneered. Who said that the young master doesn't dare to come? At this moment, a shout came from afar. Following it, a few figures stepped forward. It was Lu Ming, Autumn Moon, Ouyang Qingxiang, and the others. The one who spoke was Autumn Moon. Lu Ming wore a faint smile on his face. Not long ago, he had finally broken through to the 3rd layer heavenly god realm. It was also because of that he was late. He really dares to come. Many people's eyes flickered. It was somewhat unexpected. Very well. Qin Wuyo's eyes flickered ferociously as he licked his lips. He did not conceal his cold, murderous intent. You guys wait for me here, Lu Ming said to Autumn Moon and the others. He then stepped forward and arrived beside the Ice Immortal and the others. The 18 people of the Qin star field had all arrived. Who are the 9 of you? The Ice Immortal asked. Bang bang. As soon as the Ice Immortal finished speaking, a young man from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace stepped forward. Including the young man in a golden robe and Qin Wushang, there were a total of 9 people. 9 people, 7 men and 2 women. The Ice Immortal and the others glanced at the 9 people with a stern expression. Because there were some people among them that they could not see through at all. Chapter 29:33. Since everyone is here, I'll be the first to defend the ring. The golden-robed young man nodded at a young man with a horn on his head. The young man nodded and landed on the fighting ring with a flash of his body. Su Hua from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. Who wants to fight me? The young man with a horn on his head shouted. He scanned Lu Ming and the others with a powerful aura. 6th level heavenly god. The single-horned young man, Su Hua, was a 6th layer heaven god. Judging from his aura, the god power that he possessed was most likely at the saint grade. I'll fight you. A cold voice was heard. Then, a sword light flashed and a young man with a long sword on his back appeared on the fighting ring. The young man was from the invincible Kenzo. Invincible Kenzo, Zhuyu. The young man with a long sword on his back said. A sword light soared into the sky. His aura was on par with Su Hua's. He was also a 6th-level heavenly god. Zhui Yu's reputation in the invincible Kenzo was on par with Zhui Budong. He was also a genius who was second only to the sword principal Wuji. It seems like you're a sword cultivator. Interesting. Come on, let me see how strong a sword cultivator from the Qin Tian Starfield is. Su Hua licked his lips and his eyes lit up. As you wish. Zhuo Yu snorted. As soon as he finished speaking, the battle sword on his back was unsheathed at an astonishing speed. Many people didn't see how he unsheathed his sword. They only saw a beam of sword light, like an immortal flying from the heavens, breaking through the air to kill Su Hua. However, Su Hua's speed was not slow at all. A dazzling white saber light shot out from his hand and slashed forward. Clang, clang, clang. In the next instant, the two of them clashed. Sword light and saber light kept colliding in the air. In a breath's time, the two of them had exchanged at least a few hundred blows. In the next instant, the two of them separated at the same time and retreated. Who won? The crowd quickly observed carefully. On the surface, both of them were 6th-level heavenly gods. The divine power they controlled was also divine grade. There should not be a big difference in their strength. At this moment, Zhui Yu's body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Clang. He used his sword to support his body, barely preventing himself from falling down. Zhui Yu lost? How is this possible? Many people were shocked. When they looked carefully, they found that there was a deep cut on Zhui Yu's chest that had almost cut him in half. The terrifying blade energy continued to drill into Zhui Yu's body, forcing him to channel all his divine power to defend himself. Su Hua, on the other hand, was calm and composed. His breathing was steady, and he was completely fine. You're pretty good to be able to take a wave of my attacks and not die. However, as a sword cultivator, you only have this bit of attack power. You really disappoint me, Su Hua said indifferently with a hint of disdain in his voice. Zhui Yu spat out another mouthful of blood. His eyes were blank. As a sword cultivator, he was known for his powerful attacks. However, in the collision just now, he was completely at a disadvantage and was no match for his opponent. One had to know that they were at the same level. Su Hua's divine power was only at the saint level, not the divine level. It was hard for him to accept this. That Su Hua is simply too proficient in utilizing his divine power. Both his god skills and secret techniques are extremely powerful. Bing Xian said with a solemn expression. As expected of the prodigy of the 9 extinction heavenly king palace. His use of divine power is truly amazing. Mo Jui also said with a solemn expression. Although the strength of their divine power was the same, the difference in the way they used it would result in a huge difference in power. It was just like how an ordinary person could only use brute force to attack recklessly while a martial arts expert could precisely use this strength to unleash power that was several times stronger. Naturally, there would be a huge difference in combat power. Therefore, although Zhui Yu's cultivation seemed to be on par with Su Hua, he was easily defeated. Since you can take a wave of my attacks without dying, I won't kill you. Scram. Su Hua said with a wave of his hand. Junior brother Zhua, back down. Jiandao Wuji said. Zhui Yu had no choice but to back down. Come up and fight. Su Hua said loudly. I'll do it. A young man stepped out from the Mystic Academy and landed on the fighting ring. This young man was also a peerless prodigy. Whether it was his divine power or cultivation, he was at the same level as Zhui Yu. Unfortunately, he was no match for Su Hua. After exchanging a few blows, he was severely injured by Su Hua and fled the fighting ring in a panic. His face was pale. 2 consecutive defeats. This made the hearts of the people from the Qin Tian Starfield sink. The other side had only sent out a 6th-level celestial god Holy Sun. The Qin Tian Starfield had sent out someone of the same level, But the situation was one-sided. How were they going to fight? Were they going to send out a divine sun? If that was the case, the situation would be too passive. We can't make a move now. Otherwise, we'll be too passive. Continue to send people up and exhaust his divine power. He's using his ultimate move continuously, so his divine power will be exhausted quickly. Bing Xian and the others discussed in secret and finally decided to send more experts up. Then, the boundless sacred ground sent out a prodigy to fight Su Hua. This time, the 18 people from the Qin Tian starfield were at least Zhuoyu. The 3 overlords, the Ice Soul race, and the Flame race had sent out all their prodigies. This time, the boundless sacred ground's prodigy didn't fight head-on. Instead, he used a prolonged battle to exhaust his opponent's divine power. The two sides exchanged close to 100 blows. In the end, the boundless sacred ground's prodigy was no match for his opponent and was blasted off the fighting ring. 3 consecutive defeats. The other side had only sent out a single prodigy to defeat 3 of their prodigies. If the other side sent out prodigies who were invincible in the same level, how were they going to compete? Let me. At this time, a prodigy from the Ice Soul race stepped onto the fighting ring. The moment the Ice Soul race's prodigy attacked, the entire fighting ring was frozen. Even the space seemed to be frozen. Su Hua used a swift blade. His attacks were fast, and his movements were also extremely fast. It just so happened that he was countered by the Ice Soul race's prodigy, so his attack speed was greatly reduced. Moreover, he had fought 3 battles in a row, so his divine power was greatly exhausted. For a moment, he was actually at a disadvantage. There's hope. The eyes of many people from the Qin Tian's starfield lit up. They felt that there was hope for victory. After the Ice Soul race's prodigy gained control of the situation, he launched a storm of attacks that forced Su Hua to retreat. An ice sword slashed Su Hua's shoulder, causing blood to spurt out. Lose, Ice Sword Dominion. The Ice Soul race's prodigy used his ultimate move. He condensed hundreds of ice swords that sealed off all directions and shrouded Su Hua. Su Hua quickly attacked with his blade and destroyed the ice swords. However, there were too many ice swords and he couldn't block them all. Finally, an ice sword pierced Su Hua's stomach and sent him flying out of the fighting ring. Chapter 2934. You too. Seeing that Su Hua was about to fly out of the battle stage, he roared. The horn on his forehead shone and flew out, turning into a saber and slashing at the Ice Soul Clan's genius. The Ice Soul Clan's genius screamed as he was hit. He retreated and fell out of the battle stage together with Su Hua. Su Hua coughed out blood after falling out of the battle stage. He quickly took out a healing pill and consumed it. The Ice Soul Clan's genius was more seriously injured and almost died. An expert from the Ice Soul Clan quickly intervened and saved his life. Both sides were heavily injured in this battle. A genius from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace had defeated 4 of them. After this battle, the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace sent out another genius who was no weaker than Su Hua. The Qin Tian Star Field had learned their lesson this time. They had more people and used a method of attrition. They didn't aim to win at first, but to exhaust their opponent's divine power. Just like that, the Qin Tian Star Field defeated 2 geniuses in a row, and the third one was heavily injured. In this way, the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace was left with 7 geniuses. The Qin Tian Star Field had lost 7 geniuses and was left with 11. The gap between the two sides was quickly closing. The situation was getting worse for the Qin Tian Star Field. I'll go next. A cold voice sounded. Qin Wuyo stepped onto the battle stage of the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace. They've sent out a divine sun. Everyone's eyes narrowed. Qin Wuyo landed on the battle stage and looked at Lu Ming. Kid, get down here and fight with me. Qin Wuyo shouted coldly. He didn't hide his cold killing intent. You're not qualified for me to fight. Lu Ming said indifferently. He didn't plan to fight. The 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace definitely had stronger geniuses. It wasn't the right time for him to fight. He couldn't expose his strength too early. He could only fight at the crucial moment. This battle concerned the safety of the Qin Tian star field. Lu Ming naturally wouldn't act on impulse. However, others didn't know what Lu Ming was thinking. When they heard Lu Ming say that, they thought that Lu Ming was afraid. I don't have the qualifications to make you attack. Haha, I really don't know if you're arrogant or ignorant. Qin Wuyo laughed heartily, his eyes incomparably cold. He was an existence that controlled divine power. Lu Ming actually said that he wasn't qualified enough for Lu Ming to make a move. What a joke. I'm telling the truth. Lu Ming said indifferently. How shameless. Right now, the people of the Qin Sky Star Field were naturally on Lu Ming's side. However, they couldn't help but lament that Lu Ming was really shameless. He clearly didn't dare to make a move, yet he said that the other party wasn't qualified for him to make a move. Back then, the other party was someone who had fought against Song Yan's army. Such a person was not enough for Lu Ming to deal with. To blow one's own horn, of course, everyone only thought this in their hearts. At this moment, they naturally wouldn't help Qin Wuyo to force Lu Ming. In order to survive, you're really willing to say anything. Qin Wuyo's anger soared to the sky, but Lu Ming refused to attack. Helpless, he could only look at the others and roar, "Who's going to fight with me? Who should we send?" Bing Xian, Scarlet Flame Devil Pine, Mo Yi, and the others began to discuss. This Qin Wuyo is very strong. I don't have the confidence to face him. Song Yan and defeating armies frowned. Of course, they were discussing through transmission. I feel that we shouldn't waste our advantage in numbers. Let them exhaust this person's divine power first, then we'll attack and take him down. Mo Yi said. Right now, they still had 11 people. Apart from Bing Xian, Scarlet Flame Devil Pine, Mo Yi, Sword Dao Wuji, Song Yan, defeating armies, and Lu Ming, the other 5 were all 6th-level Heavenly God Holy Sons. Against a genius like Qin Wuyo, they were definitely not his match. However, they could exhaust his divine power. In terms of fighting and exhausting the opponent's divine power, it's obviously the Ice Soul race. Scarlet Flame Devil Pine smiled faintly. Bing Xian's expression sank. Scarlet Flame Devil Pine clearly didn't have good intentions. Sending someone to exhaust Qin Wuyo's divine power was extremely dangerous. If they weren't careful, there was a risk of dying. That's right, I also think so. No one is more suitable than the Ice Soul race to exhaust their divine power. Mo Yi also said. Bing Xian was also helpless when several people spoke up. Bing Huigo, remember, be careful. Only fight with the opponent. If the situation isn't right, rush down the stage and admit defeat. Bing Xian looked at a youth from the Ice Soul race. Bing Hu nodded and jumped onto the stage, standing far away from Qin Wuyo. You actually sent trash to fight with me? Are you trying to exhaust my divine power first? How laughable. Qin Wuyo sneered, seeing through Bing Xian and the others' thoughts. I seal. Bing Hu was the first to attack. He slammed his palm down on the stage. Endless cold energy surged out, freezing the entire stage. Incomparably sharp ice swords stabbed into the ground. Bush, bush, bush. Countless ice swords formed and enveloped Qin Wuyo. Insignificant skill, break for me. Qin Wuyo shouted coldly. Dazzling light burst out from his body. Terrifying divine power formed a wave of divine power that rushed out. Pung pung pung, the ice swords that were rushing towards him, along with the surrounding ice, instantly exploded. 7 injuries divine fist. Qin Wuyo took a step forward and threw a punch at Bing Hu. Boom boom boom, wherever the fist energy passed, all the ice would shatter into pieces and scatter in all directions. The fist energy didn't stop, continuing to press down on Bing Hu. Ice sword slash. Bing Hu shouted and clenched his fists. Endless cold energy gathered and formed a huge ice sword, slashing down on Qin Wuyo's fist energy. Boom. The ice sword collided with the fist energy, causing a violent tremor. But in the next moment, Bing Hu's body shook violently. The ice sword in his hand exploded and his body madly retreated. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood in the air. Both of them were at the 6th level of the Heavenly God realm, but one of them controlled Saint-grade divine power, while the other controlled divine-grade divine power. The difference in battle strength was truly shocking. Binghu was no match for Qin Wuyo. He was completely suppressed. Die! Qin Wuyo shouted coldly. His body turned into a ray of light, charging towards Binghu. Not good, Binghu, quickly retreat from the stage. Bing Xian's expression changed greatly, and she immediately transmitted her voice to Binghu. Binghu was also shocked. He circulated his divine power with all his might, wanting to retreat and escape from the stage. But he had just been sent flying, and his body was no longer as nimble. It was already too late when he wanted to retreat. Die! Qin Wuyo shouted and punched out with both fists. A terrifying fist energy broke out from his body and charged towards Binghu. In the blink of an eye, the fist energy arrived in front of Binghu. Under such circumstances, Binghu could only use all his strength to resist. He placed a shield in front of him. They were all condensed from ice, and there were a total of 9 layers. Chapter 29:35. However, even with so many layers of defense, Binghu could not change his fate. Boom! Boom! When Qin Wuyo's 7 wounds fist force came crashing down, the 9 layers of ice shield shattered one after another. Bang! The fist force landed on Binghu's body. Binghu screamed as his body crashed heavily onto the fighting stage. Countless bones in his body were broken. His body was like a pile of mud as he laid on the ground with blood flowing out continuously. However, he was not dead yet. However, Qin Wuyo did not stop there. Looking down from above, he condensed a long spear in his hand and threw it towards Binghu. The long spear directly pierced through Binghu's forehead. This time, Binghu had completely fallen. Damn it! Bing Xian roared as she stared at Qin Wuyo. She roared, "He was already defeated just now. Why did you still want to kill him?" "In my hands, defeat means death," Qin Wuyo said coldly. Bing Xian was furious. "Defeat means death. I'll kill you." Song Yan defeating armies roared as he rushed onto the fighting stage. His body was emitting a scorching aura. "You should have made your move earlier. You asked a piece of trash to die. Do you really think you can exhaust my divine power? You're delusional," Qin Wuyo sneered. Song Yan defeating armies roared as his body was covered in flames as he charged towards Qin Wuyo. 7 wounds divine fist. Qin Wuyo used the 7 wounds divine fist to fight Song Yan defeating armies. The two of them had fought before and there was no clear victor. This time, the battle was even more intense. Boom! Boom! Both of their attacks were domineering. Their fists collided continuously and in an instant, they had exchanged over 100 punches. Raging Fire Guardian. Suddenly, Song Yan defeating armies roared. The flames on his body burned even more fiercely. The endless flames condensed into a giant that was over 100 meters tall. This giant was holding a fire wolf tooth mace. It was extraordinarily mighty. Raging Inferno Vajra. Song Yan's army destroyer has actually cultivated the Raging Inferno Vajra. Song Yan's talent is indeed shocking, to be able to master such a secret technique. His strength is definitely on par with Emojiu Yi and the Wuji sword art. Many people cried out in surprise. In the past, when Emojiu and Jiandao Wuji cultivated the ancient god physique, many people thought that Song Yan and Pejuan would be surpassed. However, now that they had seen Song Yan's army destroyer cultivate the Raging Inferno Guardian, they knew that Song Yan's combat strength wasn't weak at all. Song Yan's army destroyer roared. The Raging Fire Vajra roared and swung its mace towards Qin Wuyo. Facing the Raging Fire Guardian, a serious look flashed across Qin Wuyo's eyes. Qin Wuyo's face suddenly turned pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Fresh blood gathered on his fists, making his fists even more powerful. The 7 injuries divine fist, the more injured one was, the more powerful it would be. Boom! Boom! Qin Wuyo wasn't afraid at all. He rushed towards the Raging Fire Guardian and continuously threw out the 7 injuries divine fists, engaging in a fierce battle with Song Yan's army destroyer. The battle between the two had reached its climax, and both of them had used their ultimate moves. Boom! The raging fire guardian's power was shocking, and the temperature of the flames was frighteningly high. In the battle, it actually suppressed Qin Wuyo and gained the upper hand. Song Yan's army destroyer is going to win. The people of Qin Tian Star Field were overjoyed. In a battle between divine sons, he was finally not as passive and vulnerable as he was when he was fighting with sacred sons. This secret technique is somewhat similar to the divine dragon aspect technique. Lu Ming pondered. He felt that Song Yan's army destroyer's raging fire guardian was somewhat similar to the divine dragon aspect technique. However, he wasn't that optimistic. He was sure that Song Yan's army destroyer would win. Sure enough, at the beginning, Song Yan's army destroyer did indeed have the upper hand, suppressing Qin Wushang and even injuring him. However, after Qin Wushang was injured, the power of the 7 injuries divine fists became stronger. Gradually, it became a tie with Song Yan's army destroyer. One had to admit that the 7 injuries divine fists was really abnormal. The more injured one was, the stronger the power. In a battle, this was extremely advantageous. For example, when others were injured in a battle, their strength would become weaker and weaker, but you would become stronger and stronger. How terrifying was that? Therefore, at the beginning, Song Yan's army destroyer had the upper hand, but in the end, the two of them became a tie. However, it would be difficult for Qin Wuyo to defeat Song Yan's army destroyer. Kill, kill, kill. Song Yan's army destroyer's fighting spirit soared to the sky. His 3-meter-tall body was filled with astonishing flames, and the space was distorted by the flames. His body was covered with a layer of armor, and there were runes flowing on it. He was like an invincible god of fire. The two of them exchanged another 100 moves. Boom! In the end, Qin Wuyo used the 7 injuries divine fists to attack Song Yan's army destroyer and sent Song Yan flying. However, Song Yan's army destroyer controlled the raging fire Vajra, and its huge mace hit Qin Wuyo's body. Qin Wuyo coughed out blood, and his body flew out of the fighting ring like a cannonball. Qin Wuyo and Song Yan's army destroyer flew out of the fighting ring at almost the same time. Then, they took out healing pills at the same time, and started to heal their injuries. There was still no clear victor in this battle, and it ended with both sides suffering heavy injuries. In this way, there were 6 people left in the 9-Ju Heavenly King Palace, and 9 in the Qin Tian Star Field. Clang! The sound of a sword rang, and in the direction of the 9-Ju Heavenly King Palace, a sword light flashed, and a black-clothed young man landed on the fighting ring. This black-clothed young man carried a long sword on his back, and his body was as straight as a divine sword. Boom! The divine power in his body erupted like a volcano, and a ray of sword chi shot up to the sky. What a terrifying sword essence! Many people were shocked when they felt the terrifying sword essence. Even Mo Jiao Yi, Sword Dao Wu Ji, and the others narrowed their eyes. This person was also a divine son, and he possessed divine-grade divine power. His cultivation was at level 6 heavenly god, and he was a terrifying sword cultivator. I am Absolute Sword, and you are also a sword cultivator. Come down and fight, and let me see what kind of strength the peerless sword cultivator of the Qin Tian Star Field has. Absolute Sword looked at Sword Dao Wu Ji, and his eyes were like divine swords. Just what I want. Sword Dao Wu Ji also showed a strong fighting spirit. He took a step forward, and his body appeared on the fighting ring. Similarly, a shocking sword essence burst out from his body. Boom! Before the two of them made a move, their sword essences had already clashed in the void, and rays of sword chi spread out in all directions. Bam! Bam! Their gazes met, and 2 tiny streams of sword chi shot out from their eyes, clashing in the air. Clang! Clang! Then, 2 sword cries resounded in the sky. The two of them drew their swords at the same time, and the sword light was as bright as the stars, so bright that some people could not open their eyes. Clang! Clang! In mid-air, the sounds of clashing could be heard. The people could no longer see the two of them, and they could only see 2 rays of sword chi clashing in the fighting ring. Chapter 29:36. Two sword lights appeared on the right side of the battle stage, then on the left side. Every time they collided, endless sword chi would burst out in all directions, forming a terrifying sword chi storm. Fortunately, they were on the battle stage and there was a powerful array around the battle stage. The array appeared and blocked all the sword chi storm. Otherwise, it would have caused a terrible disaster. The two of them fought for a while before suddenly stopping. Then, the two figures flew backwards. Two figures, one black and one white, stood on both sides of the battle stage with swords in their hands. However, it could be seen that Limitless Sword's breathing was slightly hurried, while Absolute Sword's breathing was steady. Could it be that Limitless Sword is no match for him? Many people's hearts sank. Absolute Sword's sword Dao was indeed very powerful. His sword was quick and decisive. In the previous confrontation, he had a slight advantage. Your sword Dao is only at this level? You've disappointed me. Now, it's time to decide the winner. Sun Luo's sword domain, God slaying 10,000 swords. Absolute Sword said coldly. Then, he waved his hand and the battle sword in his hand floated above his head, slightly vibrating. Buzz. Waves of strange field energy emanated from Absolute Sword's body. Suddenly, countless sword shadows appeared around his body. It really looked like countless swords. At a glance, it was impossible to see how many sword images there were. Bush, 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 bush. Countless sword images pierced towards Limitless Sword. Break! Limitless Sword shouted. Sword lights bloomed from his hand, slashing towards those sword images. However, his expression greatly changed as soon as they came into contact. Because the power of those sword images was actually very terrifying. Each sword image was like Absolute Sword's full power attack. With so many sword images added together, the power was truly shocking. Limitless Sword's sword light shattered as soon as they came into contact. His body violently shook, and he rapidly retreated, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Several wounds appeared on his body, and blood flowed out. What a terrifying secret technique. Absolute Sword's battle strength is too shocking. At this moment, Bing Xian, Scarlet Flame Devil Pine, and Emojio Yi exclaimed in shock. Lu Ming's eyes also focused. The battle prowess of this Absolute Sword was indeed incomparably terrifying. It was much stronger than Qin Wuyo from before. Zhu Jian's talent is extremely outstanding even in the Jianghu Heavenly King Palace. There aren't many people who can match him at the same level. In the Qin Tian Star Field, it's impossible to defeat him at the same level. In the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Mansion, a young man sneered. Lose for me. The Absolute Sword's cold voice sounded as he continued to control the sword shadows to attack the Absolute Sword. Ancient God Body. At this moment, Everlasting Sword Dao let out a roar. His body expanded rapidly, turning into a 100-meter-tall, orange-armored ancient god. The battle sword in his hand also expanded rapidly. With a swing of his sword, a sword light as large as a mountain appeared. Bump bump, a series of collision sounds rang out. After the limitless way of the sword transformed into the ancient god body, his strength increased greatly. He finally managed to dodge many of the sword shadows. This is the body of an ancient god. In the 9 Absolute Heavenly King manner, a youth cried out in surprise, appearing very surprised. I really didn't expect someone from the small Qin Heavenly Starfield to be able to refine an ancient god body. In the 9 Absolute Heavenly King manner, an old man stroked his beard and nodded in surprise. It's indeed surprising. However, it's just an orange-armored ancient god body. He's still not a match for the Absolute Sword. The golden-robed youth said coldly. They seemed to have a good understanding of the ancient god body. They didn't hide their conversation. Lu Ming and the others also heard it. Could it be that there's also someone in the 9 Absolute Heavenly King manner that has refined an ancient god body? Lu Ming's heart moved and he couldn't help but guess. According to legends, the ancient god was a tyrannical existence that was born naturally during the beginning of the universe. At that time, there were many ancient gods in the world. Since they were able to leave behind their descendants and inheritances in the Qin Heavenly Starfield, It was highly possible that there were other ancient gods in other places. Lose for me. The limitless way of the sword transformed into an ancient god and waved his long sword, attacking the absolute sword. A mere orange-armored ancient god wants to defeat me? Naive. The absolute sword only revealed a trace of surprise at the beginning, but he quickly regained his composure. With a wave of his hands, countless sword shadows whizzed towards the limitless way of the sword. The endless sword shadows converged into a long river and rushed towards the limitless way of the sword. The limitless way of the sword was 100 meters tall. He waved his huge sword like a stone pillar in the river, blocking the impact of the river water. However, no matter how tough the stone pillar was, it would eventually collapse under the constant impact of the river water. For example, the limitless way of the sword could still resist at the beginning and even charge forward. However, his charging speed became slower and slower, and after a while, not only was he unable to move forward, but he was also forced to retreat. Clang, 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 clang. Countless sword shadows slashed at the limitless way of the sword and the orange scales on his body. Sparks flew everywhere. In the end, the scales on the limitless way of the sword cracked, and sword wounds appeared on his body, causing blood to flow. He was completely unable to defend himself, and the wounds on his body were getting bigger and bigger. Bang! In the end, the limitless way of the sword's body rapidly shrank. He could no longer maintain the ancient god body, and reverted back to his normal form. He flew out of the battle stage and fell heavily outside. Limitless, how are you? Immediately, the experts of the invincible Kenzo went up to heal the limitless way of the sword. On the battle stage, Zhu Jian waved his hand, and the sword shadows that filled the sky disappeared without a trace. He calmly stood on the battle stage, looking around. Who wants to fight again? He glanced at the Scarlet Flame Devil Pine, Bing Xian, and Yi. In his opinion, only the three of them from the Qintian Star Field could fight against him. I'll do my best to exhaust his divine power. If I can't beat him, you two can go. Yi said to the Scarlet Flame Devil Pine and Bing Xian. The Scarlet Flame Devil Pine and Bing Xian were both stronger than him. Now wasn't the time to fight. Then, Yi directly charged onto the battle stage. 6th level Heavenly God. With your cultivation base, you're still not my match, said Zhu Jian indifferently. He didn't look arrogant, as if he was just stating a fact. Don't be so sure. We'll know after the battle, said Yi coldly. Then he stepped forward. Peng after taking a few steps, Yi's body rapidly swelled, and he turned into a 100-meter tall orange-armored ancient god. Yi used his full strength as soon as he attacked. Another ancient god body. I didn't expect that there would be more than one person from the Qintian Star Field who managed to cultivate the ancient god body. Someone from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence was astonished. Looks like an ancient god world has appeared in the Qintian Star Field, and an ancient god inheritance has appeared. That's why there are so many people who manage to cultivate the ancient god body. It's rare to have such an opportunity in such a remote star field, said an old man from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.